Tonight, we are standing beneath a sky that has no beginning and no end. Above you, countless stars shimmer across the darkness like silver dust scattered upon black velvet. There are no cities below, no temple bells, no ships crossing distant seas. The world is still young, and the boundaries between earth, sea, and heaven feel uncertain. A cool wind drifts across vast mountains. Somewhere beyond sight waves strike ancient shores. And in the silence between those sounds, a question waits. How could the greatest ruler of an age become the architect of his own downfall? That question has echoed through thousands of years. It survives in ruined temples, fragments of poetry, and stories whispered beside sacred fires. It follows the memory of one figure more than any other: Cronus, a king, a rebel, a father, a conqueror, and perhaps above all else, a being who spent much of his life fearing tomorrow. So before we continue tonight's journey, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy exploring these ancient stories together. And if you feel comfortable, let us know your location and local time in the comments. There is something comforting about imagining listeners from distant places gathering beneath the same night sky. Now let us return to a world before Olympus, a world before Zeus, a world ruled by beings so ancient that even later gods spoke of them with caution. You find yourself standing upon the slopes of a primordial mountain. Mist drifts through valleys untouched by human footsteps. The scent of damp earth rises from forests older than memory. Above everything stretches the immense form of heaven itself. The Greeks called him Uranus, not simply a god of the sky itself. When daylight spread across the world, it was Uranus who stretched above the earth. When stars appeared at night, they shone from within his vast celestial body. Beneath him rested Gaia, the Earth Mother. Ancient traditions describe her as fertile, enduring, and immeasurably patient. Where Uranus represented distance, Gaia represented closeness. You could feel her beneath bare feet. You could smell her after rain. You could touch stone and soil and know you were touching part of her eternal being. Together they brought forth children unlike anything creation had known. The Titans, gigantic beings of divine power. Some governed light, some governed memory, some governed oceans. Others embodied natural forces that would shape the future world. Among these children was Cronus, the youngest of the first generation of Titans. At least that is how most surviving traditions remember him. Yet even here, uncertainty remains. Some ancient storytellers preserve different details. Historians continue to debate exactly how early traditions described his birth. But all versions agree upon one thing: Cronus entered a family already burdened by tension. You watch the young Titan grow beneath vast skies. He is not yet a king, not yet a conqueror, not yet the figure who will one day dominate the cosmos. He is simply a son among powerful siblings: Oceanus, Coeus, Creus, Hyperion, Iapetus, Thea, Phoebe, Tethys, Mnemosyne, and many others. Each possesses unique gifts. Each carries ambitions and desires. Yet even in these early days, something separates Cronus from the rest. Ancient poets often describe him as cunning, patient, observant. While others display strength openly, Cronus watches. He listens. He studies. He learns. These qualities would eventually become both his greatest advantage and his greatest weakness. The household of Uranus appears magnificent from a distance, but beneath that grandeur, shadows gather. For Uranus does not trust all of his children, particularly those born with unusual appearances and terrifying strength. Among Gaia's offspring are the Cyclopes, massive one-eyed beings connected to fire and craftsmanship. There are also the 100-handed ones, creatures possessing immense strength and countless arms. To later generations, they would seem frightening. To Gaia, they are simply her children. To Uranus, they become something else, a source of fear. One ancient tradition claims he despised their appearance. Another suggests he feared their potential power. Perhaps both explanations contain some truth. Whatever his reasons, Uranus chooses cruelty. He forces these children away from the light. Some stories say he imprisons them deep within Gaia herself. Others describe confinement in dark regions beneath the earth. The details differ. The suffering remains. Imagine Gaia's grief. Imagine carrying children within your own being while hearing their cries echo from darkness. The Earth Mother endures this pain for years, perhaps centuries. Time flows differently among immortal beings. Yet pain remains pain, no matter how long it lasts. You stand beside ancient rivers, moonlight glimmers upon their surfaces, and beneath the beauty of creation, resentment slowly grows. Gaia suffers. The imprisoned children suffer. Even the Titans begin noticing tensions within the divine family. Cronus witnesses all of this. The young Titan sees what his father has done. He sees fear ruling where wisdom should exist. Perhaps he remembers those imprisoned siblings. Perhaps he wonders why such power must be used against one's own family. Or perhaps another thought enters his mind, a more dangerous thought. If Uranus can do this to his children, what might he someday do to the Titans themselves? No surviving source can reveal exactly what Cronus felt. Yet storytellers throughout history sensed something changing within him. The seeds of rebellion, the first stirrings of ambition, the earliest shadows of destiny. Then comes the omen. Greek myths rarely allow important lives to unfold without warning. The universe itself seems eager to whisper clues. One night, beneath stars burning with unusual brightness, prophecies begin circulating among divine beings. Different versions survive. Some are vague, some are detailed, yet all point toward the same possibility. The reign of Uranus will not last forever. A child will challenge the father. A younger generation will replace the older. No one knows precisely when. No one knows precisely how, but destiny appears to have spoken. Such prophecies carry strange power in Greek mythology. They do not merely predict events, they shape behavior. Those who hear them often become trapped by them. Trying to escape fate can become the very path that fulfills it. This pattern will appear again and again throughout Cronus's life, and that is what makes this story so haunting. The young Titan grows up watching a father controlled by fear, watching a ruler respond to prophecy with oppression, watching power become a prison. Perhaps he believes he will be different. Perhaps he believes he will avoid those mistakes. Many young rulers believe such things. Yet destiny often works in circles. Far below the heavens, Gaia continues enduring her grief. Far above the earth, Uranus continues ruling through fear. And between them stands Cronus, watching, learning, changing. The future king does not yet know it, but every lesson of his childhood is preparing him for a choice that will alter the cosmos forever. A choice born from love. A choice born from anger. A choice born from ambition, and somewhere beyond the stars, fate is already waiting. For the fall of Uranus has not yet begun, but the first thread leading toward it has already been woven, and destiny has only just started revealing its design. The night sky turns slowly above you. Stars drift across the immense body of heaven, and the world below remains wrapped in silence. Cool air moves through ancient forests. Rivers carve patient paths through untouched valleys. Sacred fires do not yet burn in human settlements, for humanity has not fully entered the story. For now the story belongs to the gods, and among them one Titan continues watching. Cronus grows older. Immortals do not age as mortals do, yet they change. Experience shapes them. Choices shape them. Wounds shape them. The young Titan who once merely observed now begins to understand what he sees. The household of Uranus remains outwardly magnificent. From a distance it appears eternal. The sky arches above all things. The earth remains fertile. The oceans move according to ancient rhythms. Everything seems stable, yet beneath the surface pressure continues building. You walk through moonlit groves where silver leaves rustle softly in the wind. The scent of pine and damp earth lingers in the cool darkness. Here the Titans sometimes gather, not as rulers, not as enemies, simply as brothers and sisters. Some speak openly, others remain cautious. No one forgets that Uranus watches from above. No one forgets what happened to the imprisoned children. Even among immortals, fear has a way of entering every conversation. Cronus notices this. He notices how voices become quieter whenever Uranus is mentioned. He notices how Gaia's sadness never fully disappears. Most of all, he notices something deeply troubling. The ruler of the cosmos seems afraid. It is a strange thing to witness. A king who possesses almost unlimited power. A father who commands the heavens. A being capable of shaping reality itself. Yet beneath that power hides insecurity. Ancient myths often return to this idea. Fear is not limited to the weak. Sometimes the strongest fear the most, because they have the most to lose. You stand beside a cliff overlooking an endless sea. Moonlight scatters across dark waves. Far below, the water strikes stone with a slow, rhythmic sound. It feels peaceful, yet even here stories travel. Whispers move through divine circles. Some claim Uranus has become increasingly suspicious. Others speak of troubling dreams. One tradition describes strange signs appearing among the stars. Patterns no one remembers seeing before. shapes that resemble broken crowns, falling figures, a father confronted by his child. The meaning remains uncertain, but uncertainty itself can be frightening. Cronus listens carefully whenever such stories appear. He does not dismiss them, nor does he openly embrace them. Instead, he stores them away. One more piece of a larger puzzle. One more clue about the future. This habit makes him different from many titans. Hyperion often embodies brilliance and confidence. Oceanus prefers stability and distance. Others pursue their own domains and interests. Cronus studies power itself. He studies how rulers rise. He studies how rulers fail. Without realizing it, he is becoming a student of kingship. And kingship can be a dangerous subject, especially for someone destined to challenge a king. Meanwhile, Gaia continues carrying her grief. You can almost feel it beneath your feet. The Earth Mother remains patient. But patience is not the same as acceptance. Many surviving traditions emphasize her suffering. The imprisoned Cyclopes remain hidden. The hundred-handed ones remain confined. The injustice never truly ends. Every season reminds her of it. Every sunrise reminds her of it. Every night reminds her of it. And over time, grief begins transforming into resolve. Cronus senses this change. Perhaps not immediately, perhaps not completely, but gradually he notices something new in his mother. Hope. Not joyful hope, determined hope. The kind that appears when someone finally decides that suffering cannot continue forever. One evening, according to certain traditions, Gaia speaks privately with several titans. The details differ depending on the source. Ancient storytellers preserved fragments rather than complete conversations. Yet a common theme survives. Gaia begins asking questions, not commands. Questions. Who will help her? Who will oppose Uranus? Who will restore balance? The responses are cautious. Most titans remain silent. The risks are enormous. To challenge Uranus is to challenge heaven itself. Failure would bring unimaginable consequences. Success seems almost impossible. And so silence spreads. You can imagine the atmosphere, a sacred grove beneath starlight. Ancient trees standing motionless, the smell of wild herbs carried by cool winds. A grieving mother seeking courage from her children, and no one willing to answer, except perhaps one. Cronus. At first even he hesitates. That hesitation matters. It reveals something important about his character. Cronus is not reckless. He is not driven by blind rage. He understands danger. He understands consequences. He understands exactly how powerful Uranus truly is. This makes his eventual decision far more significant, because courage without fear is easy. Courage with fear is much harder. As the years pass, stories of prophecy continue multiplying. Some describe voices emerging from sacred springs. Others mention dreams sent by mysterious powers older than the Titans themselves. One recurring image appears again and again. A ruler seated upon a throne, a shadow standing behind him. The ruler turns. Too late. The throne changes hands. Ancient audiences would have recognized the symbolism immediately. Power never remains still. Every generation believes its reign will last forever. Every generation eventually discovers otherwise. Cronus hears these stories. Perhaps he tries to ignore them. Perhaps he secretly wonders whether they concern Uranus. Or perhaps deep within his heart, he wonders whether they concern himself. Such thoughts can be intoxicating. The possibility of greatness. The possibility of destiny. The possibility that history is quietly moving in your direction. Many myths begin with heroes pursuing destiny. Cronus presents something more complicated. He is not pursuing destiny. Destiny appears to be approaching him. And that difference matters. For now he remains a son, a titan living beneath the shadow of his father. Yet shadows can shape those who dwell within them. They teach caution. They teach patience. Sometimes they teach resentment. You walk once more through the vast landscapes of the early cosmos. Mountain peaks rise through drifting clouds. Ancient rivers shimmer beneath moonlight. The earth feels alive beneath every step. And somewhere in this beautiful world, a decision is beginning to form. Not yet an action, not yet a rebellion, only a possibility. But possibilities have power, especially when joined with prophecy, especially when joined with suffering, especially when joined with ambition. Gaia continues waiting. The imprisoned children continue suffering. Uranus continues ruling. And Cronus continues watching. Yet the balance is changing. Slowly, quietly, inevitably. For the Earth Mother is preparing something hidden from heaven's sight. And before long she will ask her children a question that only one of them is willing to answer. The consequences of that answer will echo across every age that follows. But the moment of choice has not arrived quite yet. The stars are still gathering their witnesses. and fate is still preparing its next move. The wind carries the scent of rain across the ancient world. You stand beneath towering cypress trees whose roots reach deep into the body of Gaia herself. Above, countless stars shine through drifting clouds. Their light falls softly upon valleys, mountains, and silent seas. The cosmos appears calm, yet beneath that calm something is changing. The grief of the Earth Mother has finally reached its limit. For ages beyond counting, Gaia has endured. She has watched Uranus imprison their children. She has listened to cries hidden beneath stone and darkness. She has felt suffering echo through her own being. Patience has carried her far. But patience alone cannot heal every wound. And so beneath moonlit skies and far from the gaze of heaven, Gaia begins forming a plan. You can almost feel the weight of the moment. Not because armies are gathering, not because battles are being fought, but because a single decision is quietly approaching. Many of the greatest turning points in mythology begin this way. In silence, in secrecy, in the hidden chambers of the heart. Gaia understands something that Uranus does not. Power built entirely upon fear eventually creates resistance. The more tightly a ruler grips control, the more desperately others dream of freedom. Perhaps she has known this for ages. Perhaps she only now accepts it. The surviving myths offer no certainty. As often happens with ancient stories, mystery remains. But one truth appears throughout every version. Gaia decides the age of Uranus must end. You walk with her through sacred landscapes untouched by time. The earth feels warm beneath bare feet. Night insects hum among grasses silvered by moonlight. The scent of wild herbs drifts upon cool air. Somewhere nearby, water trickles across smooth stone. It is a peaceful scene, yet the future of the cosmos is being shaped here. One tradition tells of Gaia gathering her Titan children. Another suggests she approached them individually. The details vary. The emotion remains the same. A mother seeking help. A mother asking her children to confront injustice. Imagine the burden she carries. These are not ordinary children. They are Titans, beings of immense strength and ancient power. Yet they are still her children. To ask them to challenge Uranus is to place them in terrible danger. Failure could mean destruction. Success could change everything. One by one, Gaia presents her case. She speaks of the imprisoned Cyclopes. She speaks of the 100-handed ones. She speaks of suffering that has endured for too long. The Titans listen. And then something unexpected happens. They hesitate. Perhaps fear silences them. Perhaps caution. Perhaps loyalty. Whatever the reason, none immediately volunteer. The silence stretches. You can almost hear it. Only the distant wind. Only rustling leaves. Only the soft sounds of a sleeping world. Then Gaia asks again, who will help? Who will challenge heaven? Who will confront Uranus? And once more silence answers, except for one voice, Cronus. The youngest Titan steps forward, not with celebration, not with arrogance, not with certainty. Ancient storytellers rarely describe this moment as triumphant. Instead, it feels heavy, serious, almost sorrowful, because Cronus understands what he is accepting. This is not merely rebellion. This is family. A son preparing to oppose his father. A child preparing to alter the structure of creation itself. Why does he agree? That question has fascinated listeners for thousands of years. Some ancient traditions present Cronus as a hero, a liberator willing to risk everything. Others portray him as ambitious, a titan attracted by the possibility of power. Many modern scholars suspect both motives existed together. Human beings are rarely guided by a single emotion. Why should gods be any different? Perhaps Cronus genuinely wishes to free his siblings. Perhaps he also imagines wearing the crown of heaven. Perhaps compassion and ambition grow side by side within him. The myths never fully resolve the question. And perhaps that uncertainty makes him more compelling. Because perfect heroes often feel distant. Flawed figures feel real. You watch Gaia lead Cronus into hidden places beneath the earth. Ancient caves open beneath mountain slopes. Torchlight flickers against walls glittering with crystals. The air feels cool and still. Water drips slowly from stone ceilings. Far from the sight of Uranus' mother and son prepare for what must come next. There, according to the most famous tradition, Gaia creates a weapon. Not a sword, not a spear. Something stranger. A great sickle fashioned from unbreakable stone. Its edge gleams beneath torchlight. Its surface reflects fire in pale flashes. The weapon symbolizes more than violence. It represents harvest, separation, the cutting away of what can no longer remain. Some later interpreters saw deep meaning in this image. Just as grain must be cut for new growth to appear, perhaps an old order must sometimes end before a new one can begin. Whether the ancient Greeks intended such symbolism remains uncertain. Yet the image endured. Cronus accepts the sickle. The weight settles into his hands. Cold stone against immortal skin, a simple sensation. And yet it marks the beginning of everything. For the first time, rebellion becomes reality. For the first time, the future king crosses a threshold from which there can be no return. You stand nearby as silence fills the cavern. The torch flames crackle softly. Shadows move across ancient walls. Gaia studies her son carefully. Perhaps she sees courage. Perhaps she sees fear. Most likely she sees both, because even now Cronus cannot know how this story will end. Prophecy speaks in riddles. Destiny reveals only fragments. No one can see the entire path ahead. That uncertainty makes every choice meaningful. Outside the cave, strange signs begin appearing, at least according to later storytellers. Some describe comets blazing across the heavens. Others mention unusual storms moving over distant seas. A few traditions speak of birds flying in unnatural formations. The Greeks often interpreted such events as messages, the universe itself responding to approaching change. Whether these signs truly occurred is impossible to know. Yet their symbolic role is clear. Nature senses transformation before mortals or gods fully understand it. Even the stars appear restless. Cronus notices these omens, and for a brief moment, doubt enters his thoughts. What if he fails? What if Uranus discovers the plan? What if the prophecy means something entirely different? Such fears are natural. Yet another thought soon follows. What if no one acts? What if suffering continues forever? That question proves stronger. Sometimes courage is not the absence of fear. Sometimes courage is deciding that another outcome would be worse. The young Titan grips the stone sickle. His decision remains unchanged. Above him, heaven continues stretching across the world. Below him, Gaia waits. Around him, destiny tightens its invisible threads. The trap has been prepared. The moment approaches. And somewhere beyond sight, Uranus remains unaware that his own household has begun moving against him. The ruler of heaven still believes his power is secure. He still believes tomorrow will resemble yesterday. But tomorrow rarely asks permission before arriving. And soon, beneath a sky crowded with stars, father and son will meet at the turning point of an age. When that night arrives, neither the cosmos nor Cronus will ever be the same again. Night settles across the young cosmos. You stand upon a vast and silent plain where moonlight washes over hills of silver grass. The air feels cool against your skin. A distant sea murmurs beyond the horizon. Above everything stretches the immense body of Uranus, glittering with stars that seem unusually bright tonight. The world is holding its breath. Some moments in mythology arrive with thunder. Others arrive with silence. This is one of those silent moments. For years, perhaps longer than years, can measure destiny has been gathering itself. Grief has deepened. Resentment has grown. Prophecies have whispered through dreams and sacred places. Now all those forces converge. Cronus waits, hidden beside Gaia. The great stone sickle rests in his hands. Its edge catches fragments of moonlight. The weapon feels cold, heavy, real. Until now, rebellion has existed only as an idea, a possibility, a conversation held beneath trees and within caves. Tonight it becomes action. Ancient storytellers describe this scene in different ways. Some emphasize the violence, others focus upon the cosmic symbolism. Many preserve only fragments. Yet all agree that what happens next marks the end of one age and the beginning of another. You feel tension spreading through the earth itself. The wind grows still. Even the waves seem quieter. Gaia waits patiently. Her suffering has led to this moment. For countless ages, she has endured the imprisonment of her children. Now she watches the son who answered her call. Perhaps she feels hope. Perhaps fear. Perhaps both. The myths do not tell us. And perhaps that silence is fitting. Because parents often understand that once a child chooses a path, they must walk it alone. Cronus waits beneath the shadow of heaven. Then Uranus descends. The great sky god comes to Gaia as he has countless times before. He suspects nothing. Why would he? He is heaven itself, the ruler of creation, the most powerful being in existence, or so he believes. Many myths contain this lesson. Power often blinds those who possess it. The stronger a ruler becomes, the harder it may be to imagine losing authority. Uranus cannot imagine such a thing. And that inability proves dangerous. The stars shimmer overhead. The night deepens. Then the hidden Titan moves. The moment arrives suddenly. One heartbeat. One decision. One irreversible action. Cronus emerges from concealment. The stone sickle flashes, and the old order breaks. Ancient poets describe the event with imagery both strange and symbolic. Their language reflects religious ideas, cultural traditions, and the mysterious logic of myth itself. The details are not important for our journey tonight. What matters is what the act represents. A son overthrowing his father, a younger generation replacing an older one, the transfer of cosmic authority, the ending of fear's reign, or at least what Cronus believes will be the ending. The universe responds immediately. The myths tell of tremendous consequences. The earth trembles, the seas churn, the heavens cry out. Some traditions claim new beings emerge from the aftermath. The Furies, the giants, other ancient powers destined to influence future ages. Whether taken literally or symbolically, these stories communicate the same idea. Great changes create unexpected consequences. Nothing ends cleanly. Nothing begins without leaving traces behind. You stand beneath a sky transformed by conflict. The scent of rain fills the air. Cold winds sweep across the landscape. Above, Uranus retreats, his authority shattered, his reign finished. Yet before he departs completely, he speaks, and his final words become one of the most important moments in Cronus's life. The fallen ruler delivers a prophecy, a warning, a curse. Perhaps all three at once. The exact wording differs among traditions, but the meaning remains remarkably consistent. Just as Cronus has overthrown his father one day, his own child will overthrow him. The cycle will repeat. The son will become the father. The victor will become the victim. The future will mirror the past. You can imagine how those words linger. At first, perhaps Cronus dismisses them. After all, victory fills the air. The impossible has been accomplished. The ruler of heaven has fallen. The Titans stand triumphant. Why worry about distant possibilities? Why fear a future that may never arrive? Yet prophecies possess unusual power. Even when ignored, they remain. Even when forgotten, they wait. Like seeds beneath soil. Patient, silent, growing unseen. The warning settles somewhere deep within Cronus. Not yet a wound. Not yet an obsession. Only a memory. But memories can shape entire lives, especially when tied to fear. The night slowly passes. Dawn begins approaching. For the first time, the world awakens without Uranus ruling above it. Mist drifts across valleys. Sunlight touches mountain peaks. Birds move through forests washed in pale gold. Everything feels different, and yet strangely familiar. This is another lesson hidden within mythology. Revolutions rarely transform the world overnight. The sky remains, the earth remains. The seas remain. The same rivers continue flowing toward the same oceans. Yet beneath those familiar surfaces, power has changed hands. The Titans gather. Some celebrate. Some remain cautious. All understand that history has shifted. At the center of this new reality stands Cronus, the youngest Titan, the rebel son, the conqueror of heaven. For the first time, he begins experiencing something new. Responsibility. Rebellion demands courage. Leadership demands something else entirely. A ruler must preserve what a rebel only needed to challenge. This transition proves difficult for many leaders. Ancient history offers countless examples. Mythology understood the pattern long before historians named it. The qualities that help someone seize power are not always the qualities needed to govern wisely. Whether Cronus will understand this remains uncertain. As dawn brightens the world, Gaia approaches her victorious son. What passes between them is unknown. No surviving source records their conversation. Perhaps they speak of freedom. Perhaps they mourn what has been lost. Perhaps they simply stand together in silence. The mystery remains. Yet another question begins emerging. What kind of king will Cronus become? Will he rule differently from Uranus? Will he avoid repeating the mistakes of his father? Or will power change him as it has changed so many before? The answer lies hidden within years not yet lived. For now, the cosmos celebrates a new beginning. The imprisoned children may finally know hope. The Titans possess unprecedented authority. The Golden Age waits just beyond the horizon, and Cronus stands at the summit of triumph. Yet beneath that triumph, another force quietly awakens. The prophecy. The final gift from a defeated father. The warning that will follow Cronus through every season of his reign. For fate rarely abandons those marked by destiny. And far in the future, beyond celebrations and victories, beyond peace and prosperity, the words of Uranus will return. When they do, they will change everything. But that future remains distant. For now, a new king rises beneath a fresh morning sky, and the age of Titans is about to begin. Morning spreads across the newborn age. You stand upon a high ridge overlooking a world washed clean by dawn. Mist drifts through valleys below. Rivers gleam like ribbons of silver. Far away waves strike ancient shores with a steady and comforting rhythm. The night of rebellion has ended. The age of rule has begun. Cronus now stands where Uranus once stood, not in the sky itself, not as heaven incarnate, but as the acknowledged ruler of the cosmos. The transformation feels almost impossible. Only a short time ago, he was the youngest Titan living beneath another's authority. Now every gaze turns toward him. Every expectation settles upon his shoulders. Every uncertainty points toward his decisions. This is the strange reward of victory. You spend years dreaming about reaching the summit. Then one day you arrive, and discover the summit is only the beginning. The Titans gather beneath open skies. Sunlight reflects from rivers and mountain peaks. The scent of wildflowers drifts across warm fields. The world feels peaceful. For the first time in ages, many believe suffering may finally be ending. The imprisoned Cyclopes are freed. The 100-handed ones emerge once more into the light. Gaia's grief softens. The burden she carried for so long finally begins lifting, at least for now. You watch Cronus move among his family. Something has changed in him. Authority alters even the most familiar faces. Not always in obvious ways. Sometimes the change appears only in posture, in voice, in the awareness that every decision now carries consequences. The Titans look to him for guidance, and he discovers an uncomfortable truth. Power is far heavier than the stone sickle he once carried. Ancient myths often focus upon battles and miracles, yet some of their deepest wisdom emerges elsewhere, in the realization that leadership itself can become a burden. Cronus has won the throne. Now he must justify possessing it. The early years of his reign appear remarkably successful. Ancient traditions remember this period with unusual warmth. The world seems balanced. The natural order functions smoothly. The earth produces abundance. The seas remain calm. Harmony spreads across creation. Many later Greeks would look back upon this era with longing. They imagined it as a lost paradise, a time when existence felt simpler, safer, kinder. Whether reality truly matched the legend is impossible to know. Even ancient storytellers disagreed, yet the memory endured. And memories often reveal what people wish the world could be. You walk through fertile landscapes flourishing beneath Titan rule. Olive groves stretch across hillsides. Fresh water flows through green valleys. Birdsong echoes among forests untouched by war. The air feels warm and pleasant. Everywhere you look, nature appears generous. This growing prosperity strengthens Cronus's reputation. He is no longer merely the son who defeated Uranus. He becomes something more. A king, a provider, a guardian of order. For the first time, he experiences genuine admiration. Not fear, not obedience, admiration. It is a powerful feeling, one that many rulers find difficult to resist. The desire to be remembered, the desire to be praised, the desire to believe that history itself approves of your choices. These emotions are not inherently dangerous, but they can become dangerous, especially when combined with power. For now, however, Cronus appears worthy of the respect he receives. Even later generations who condemned parts of his story often acknowledge the achievements of his reign. The world feels stable, hopeful, bright. Yet mythology rarely allows peace to exist without shadows. The first signs arrive quietly, almost unnoticed. One evening, as sunset paints the sky with gold and crimson, strange dreams begin spreading among divine beings. Dreams of changing seasons, dreams of falling stars, dreams of crowns passing from one figure to another. No one fully understands their meaning. Perhaps they are ordinary dreams. Perhaps they are messages. The Greeks often believed that sleep could open pathways to hidden truths. The boundary between dream and prophecy was not always clear. Cronus hears these stories, and for a moment the old warning returns. The prophecy of Uranus, a child overthrowing a father, a ruler losing his throne. The thought appears only briefly, then disappears, or so he hopes. You notice something important about fear. Fear rarely vanishes completely, even after victory, even after success, even after years of peace. It simply waits, sometimes hidden, sometimes sleeping, but never entirely gone. The prophecy now lives within Cronus like a distant echo, not loud enough to dominate his thoughts, not yet, but present, always present. Meanwhile, his relationships with the other Titans continue evolving. Oceanus remains steady and distant. Hyperion shines with confidence. Mnemosyne preserves memory and wisdom. The family that once united against Uranus now faces a different challenge. How do powerful equals coexist after achieving victory? This question has troubled kingdoms throughout history. Shared enemies create unity. Shared success often creates competition. No major conflict emerges during these early years, yet subtle tensions exist. Ancient sources occasionally hint at disagreements, differences in priorities, differences in vision. Such things are natural. Even divine families experience them. Cronus manages these challenges reasonably well. At least at first, his patience serves him. His intelligence serves him. His experience beneath Uranus has taught valuable lessons. He understands the dangers of ruling through fear alone, and so he strives for balance, justice when possible, authority when necessary. The effort appears sincere. That sincerity matters, because later events become far more tragic if we remember this truth. Cronus was not born a tyrant. He did not begin his reign as a monster. He began as a ruler trying to create a better world. A ruler shaped by painful memories. A ruler determined not to repeat his father's mistakes. And perhaps that is why his story continues resonating after thousands of years. Because the greatest tragedies often begin with good intentions. Night falls across the Titan kingdom. Stars emerge one by one. Sacred fires glow softly beneath dark skies. The scent of wood smoke drifts through the air. You stand beside a quiet river, watching moonlight shimmer across moving water. The world feels peaceful, almost perfect. Yet perfection carries its own dangers. When everything appears secure, vigilance fades. When prosperity flourishes, hidden problems become easier to ignore. And somewhere beyond sight, destiny continues moving, slowly, patiently. Like water carving stone, the prophecy has not disappeared. The cycle of generations has not ended. The future remains unwritten. Ancient storytellers understood something profound. No victory lasts forever. No kingdom remains unchanged. No ruler escapes time, even one who governs the Golden Age. For now, however, Cronus stands at the height of his promise. The first Titan king, the liberator of his family, the guardian of a flourishing world. Yet another chapter of his life is about to begin, one that will bring joy into his heart, one that will also awaken fears he never imagined. For soon, amid the peace of his kingdom, Cronus will meet the companion destined to stand beside him upon the throne. And through that relationship, fate will discover a new path into his life. The years pass like gentle waves upon a quiet shore. You stand beneath a sky so clear that every star seems close enough to touch. Warm breezes move through flowering meadows. Rivers flow peacefully toward distant seas. The world appears wrapped in a calm, unlike anything that came before. This is the age that later generations would remember with longing. The Golden Age. Whenever ancient Greeks spoke of a lost paradise, their thoughts often drifted here, to the reign of Cronus, to a time when the earth seemed generous and life seemed easier. Whether such an age truly existed exactly as later poets described remains uncertain. Historians continue to debate how much of the Golden Age reflects religious belief and how much reflects human nostalgia. Yet the power of the story remains undeniable. People remembered it because they wanted to believe such a world was possible. And at the center of that memory stands Cronus, the Titan king, the ruler whose name became forever linked with abundance. You walk across fertile plains glowing beneath the morning sun. The scent of wild grain fills the air. Birds drift lazily above green fields. No armies march. No fortifications rise upon distant hills. The land itself appears content. Ancient poets would later describe humanity living without fear during these years. The earth provides food freely. Harvests arrive without struggle. Cold winters rarely threaten survival. People live close to nature, untouched by many hardships that define later ages. The image feels dreamlike, almost impossible. Yet perhaps that is precisely why it endured. The Golden Age was never merely about comfort. It was about harmony, a sense that the world itself moved according to a natural balance. Under Cronus, that balance appears secure, at least from a distance. You notice something remarkable about his reputation during this period. Unlike Uranus, he is not remembered primarily through fear. Unlike Zeus, he is not remembered primarily through dramatic victories. Cronus becomes associated with stability, with continuity, with prosperity. There is something strangely peaceful about that legacy. Many rulers seek glory. Many seek conquest. Cronus, at least during these years, seems to seek order. The desire itself is understandable. After witnessing the chaos of rebellion, perhaps peace feels precious. After growing beneath Uranus's shadow, perhaps harmony feels sacred. The experiences of childhood often shape adulthood. The lessons learned in one generation frequently reappear in the next, sometimes as wisdom, Sometimes as wounds, you stand beside a sacred spring surrounded by smooth white stones. Cool water trickles into a clear pool. The scent of olive trees drifts through the warm air. Nearby worshippers leave simple offerings: flowers, grain, small vessels of oil. Early religious traditions begin forming around the Titan rulers. People look toward divine powers, seeking explanations for the world around them. Why do crops grow? Why do rivers flow? Why does the sun return each morning? The gods become part of those answers. Cronus occupies a special place within this emerging spiritual landscape, not as a distant tyrant, but as a symbol of abundance, a protector of prosperity. Some later traditions would even associate him with agriculture and harvests. The connection feels natural. Both involve cycles, both involve patience, both depend upon trust in the future. Planting seeds requires faith that growth will come. Ruling wisely requires similar faith. For a time, Cronus seems capable of both. Yet beneath the surface, subtle changes continue unfolding. The first signs are easy to miss. A troubling dream here, a strange omen there, a feeling rather than a certainty. One evening, according to a surviving tradition, unusual lights appear among the stars. Their shapes shift slowly across the heavens. Observers struggle to interpret them. Some believe they signal blessing. Others suspect warning. No agreement emerges. Such uncertainty was common in the ancient world. The Greeks rarely imagined fate revealing itself clearly. Instead, destiny preferred symbols, riddles, half-understood messages. Cronus hears reports of these celestial signs. And once again, the old prophecy returns to his thoughts. Only briefly, only for a moment. Yet each return leaves a slightly deeper mark. That is often how fear grows. Not all at once, not dramatically, gradually, like roots extending through soil. The Titan King continues ruling effectively. The prosperity of the Golden Age remains genuine. Yet somewhere within him, concern begins quietly accumulating. The irony is difficult to miss. The safer the world becomes, the more he has to lose. The more successful his reign becomes, the more frightening the possibility of losing it appears. Power creates attachment. Attachment creates vulnerability. This pattern would eventually shape much of his life. For now, however, the future remains distant. You travel through flourishing landscapes beneath Titan rule. Forests stretch across hillsides painted green and gold. Fresh streams sparkle beneath sunlight. Warm winds carry the scent of flowering herbs. Everywhere signs of abundance appear. The world seems blessed, and perhaps it truly is. Many ancient Greeks sincerely believed the Golden Age represented humanity's happiest era. Not because people possessed great wealth, not because they commanded advanced technology, but because they lived closer to harmony, closer to balance, closer to the natural order established beneath Cronus's reign. That belief endured for centuries. Even after new gods ruled Olympus, even after empires rose and fell, the memory remained. There is something deeply human about longing for a simpler past. Whether that past ever existed exactly as imagined hardly matters. The longing itself reveals something important. People remembered Cronus because he represented a dream. The dream that life could be peaceful. The dream that rulers could create stability. The dream that prosperity might endure forever. Yet mythology rarely grants forever to anyone. Not heroes, not kings, not gods. You stand beneath twilight skies as evening settles across the Golden Age. The horizon glows with fading gold. Birdsong gradually gives way to silence. The first stars emerge overhead. Beautiful, patient, watching. Among those stars, destiny continues moving unseen. The prophecy spoken by Uranus remains alive, not forgotten, not defeated, simply waiting. And while Cronus governs a flourishing world, another force quietly approaches. Not rebellion, not war. Something gentler, something far more personal. Love. For soon the Titan King will find companionship beside the throne. A relationship that brings comfort, happiness, and hope. Yet it will also create the very future he fears most. Because fate often enters our lives through the people we cherish. And somewhere beyond the peaceful fields of the Golden Age, the threads of that future are already beginning to weave themselves together. The evening air feels warm and gentle. You stand upon a hillside overlooking fertile valleys bathed in moonlight. Silver light washes across rivers and meadows. Olive trees sway softly in the night breeze. Far away waves whisper against ancient shores. The Golden Age continues. The world flourishes beneath Cronus. Harvests remain plentiful. The seasons move in harmony. Peace appears secure. Yet even the most powerful ruler cannot live by duty alone. Every king carries private hopes hidden behind public responsibilities. Every ruler longs for companionship, even a titan. And so, amid prosperity and peace, another chapter of Cronus's life begins. A chapter shaped not by power, but by love. Her name is Rhea. Among the daughters of Gaia and Uranus, Rhea possesses a presence unlike any other. Ancient traditions describe her as graceful, nurturing, and deeply connected to life itself. Where Cronus often embodies caution and calculation, Rhea radiates warmth. Where he studies consequences, she trusts possibility. Together, they create a balance that many around them admire. You watch them walking through sacred groves, illuminated by moonlight. The scent of flowering herbs drifts through the air. Fireflies glow among the trees. The sounds of distant water accompany their conversations. For perhaps the first time since becoming king, Cronus appears completely at ease. There is something quietly beautiful about this transformation. The Titan who once challenged heaven now allows himself moments of peace. Moments without strategy. Moments without fear. Moments without prophecy. Ancient storytellers often focus upon battles and dramatic events, yet relationships frequently reveal more about a character than any war. And Rhea reveals a side of Cronus rarely seen elsewhere. A gentler side, a more hopeful side. When he speaks with her, the weight of kingship seems lighter. The burden of leadership feels easier to carry. The future appears less threatening. You can understand why. Love has always possessed this power. It does not erase uncertainty. It simply makes uncertainty easier to face. As their bond deepens, the Titan kingdom celebrates. The union of Cronus and Rhea strengthens the stability of the age. The rulers of the cosmos now stand together, king and queen, partners in both authority and responsibility. Ancient hymns and temple traditions would later remember Rhea with immense respect. She became associated with motherhood, fertility, and protection. Even before children entered the story, those qualities already seemed present. People felt safe around her, comforted by her presence. Cronus feels it too. And perhaps that is why this period becomes one of the happiest in his life. You travel through the flourishing world of Titan rule. The earth remains generous. Fields ripple beneath warm winds. Rivers carry fresh water through green valleys. At night, sacred fires burn beside shrines dedicated to the divine family. Everything seems stable. Everything seems secure. Yet stability often creates its own illusion. The illusion that tomorrow will resemble today. The illusion that happiness can remain unchanged forever. Mythology rarely allows such illusions to survive. One night, as stars glitter across the heavens, Rhea experiences a dream, or perhaps a vision. The surviving traditions are uncertain. Ancient sources often blurred the boundary between the two. In the dream, she stands within a vast field of golden grain. The harvest stretches endlessly toward the horizon. The air feels warm, peaceful, beautiful. Then a shadow moves across the field. Not threatening, not violent, simply inevitable. The grain bends beneath an unseen wind. One generation falls, another rises. The cycle continues. Rhea awakens before dawn. The dream lingers. Ancient Greeks treated dreams seriously, particularly dreams experienced by divine figures. Such visions rarely offered direct answers. Instead, they hinted at truths waiting beyond sight. Rhea shares the dream with Cronus. The king listens carefully. At first, the symbolism appears harmless. Fields, harvests, cycles. These themes belong naturally to the world they govern. Yet another interpretation quietly suggests itself. One generation replacing another. One ruler following the previous ruler. The prophecy of Uranus echoes once more. For only a moment. Then it fades. But not completely. Never completely. You notice how the old warning continues appearing. Sometimes through dreams. Sometimes through omens. Sometimes through ordinary thoughts. The prophecy behaves like a distant storm beyond the horizon. Not yet dangerous, not yet immediate, but always present, always waiting. Meanwhile, life continues. Cronus and Rhea grow closer. Their partnership strengthens. They rule together beneath skies filled with stars and sunlight. The people of the Golden Age prosper. The Titans remain secure. The future appears bright. Many later traditions remembered this period with particular affection, not because extraordinary adventures occurred, but because harmony existed. The king seemed wise. The queen seemed beloved. The world seemed balanced. There is a quiet tragedy hidden within that memory, because listeners already know what Cronus does not. Peace can be fragile. Happiness can be temporary. The very relationship bringing him joy will eventually confront him with his greatest fear. Yet that future remains distant. For now, he allows himself contentment. You stand beside a sacred fire late at night. The flames crackle softly. Warmth spreads through the cool air. Above, countless stars shimmer against the darkness. Cronus and Rhea sit nearby, speaking quietly. Their voices blend with the sounds of wind moving through olive branches. The scene feels almost timeless. Perhaps this is why ancient audiences cherished stories of the Golden Age. Not because the world was perfect, but because moments like this felt possible. Moments of peace, moments of connection, moments when destiny seemed far away. Yet destiny is never truly far away. Even now, signs continue appearing. A flock of birds changes direction unexpectedly. A sacred spring produces unusual ripples beneath still air. A wandering priestess speaks cryptic words during a ceremony. No single omen means much by itself. Together, they create a pattern, a sense that unseen forces remain active. The Greeks often believed fate revealed itself gradually, like dawn spreading across the horizon. You do not notice it immediately. Then suddenly the entire landscape has changed. The same process is unfolding now. The age of peace continues, but beneath its surface, another story is beginning. A story of family, of inheritance, of generations, of prophecy. The king who once overthrew his father has nearly forgotten how deeply that act shaped his destiny. Nearly forgotten, but not entirely. And soon as new life enters the royal household, the warning spoken beneath the shattered heavens will return with greater force than ever before. For love has brought happiness into Cronus's life. Soon it will bring something else. Children, and with them the future he has feared since the night he seized the throne. The night feels unusually still. You stand beneath a sky crowded with stars. Their reflections shimmer upon the surface of a quiet river. The air carries the scent of olive wood and distant flowers. Somewhere beyond the darkness, waves rise and fall against ancient shores. Everything appears peaceful. Yet peace is not always the same as certainty. Sometimes peace exists only because a storm has not yet arrived, and sometimes the storm is already approaching. The Golden Age continues flourishing beneath the rule of Cronus and Rhea. Fields remain fertile. Rivers remain generous. The Titan kingdom remains secure. To those looking from afar, the age appears blessed. But within the heart of the king, something has begun to change. The prophecy is returning, not as a voice, not as a visible enemy, as a thought, a possibility, a fear. You remember the warning spoken by Uranus on the night of his downfall. The same fate you gave your father will one day find you. For years, those words remained distant, easy to ignore, easy to dismiss. Victory made them seem powerless. Success made them seem unlikely. Now, circumstances have changed, because the future no longer feels abstract. The future has become personal. Rhea is expecting a child. Ancient traditions preserve this moment with great significance. For the first time, the prophecy acquires a face, not an enemy, not a rival, a child. And that changes everything. You walk beside Cronus through moonlit gardens surrounding the royal dwelling of the Titans. The scent of jasmine drifts through the night air. Marble pathways gleam beneath silver light. The king moves slowly, deep in thought. No armies threaten his throne. No rebellions challenge his authority. Yet he feels less secure than ever before. This is the strange nature of fear. It does not always grow from danger. Sometimes it grows from imagination. The possibility of danger. The anticipation of loss. The shadow of what might happen. And imagination can be far more powerful than reality. Cronus tries to dismiss his concerns. At first he succeeds. The prophecy was spoken long ago. Many prophecies fail. Many omens prove meaningless. Surely he has no reason to worry. Surely the future remains open. Yet another part of him remembers something uncomfortable. The prophecy about Uranus came true. Every detail. The ruler of heaven believed himself untouchable. The ruler of heaven believed destiny could not reach him. The ruler of heaven was wrong. If fate accomplished that once, why could it not happen again? You watch these thoughts move through the mind of the Titan king. He tells no one, not yet. He speaks little of his fears. Perhaps he feels ashamed of them. Perhaps he hopes they will fade. Perhaps he fears giving them power through words. Ancient cultures often believed spoken words possessed real influence. Naming something could strengthen it. Silence could weaken it. Cronus chooses silence. The silence does not help. As the months pass, strange signs begin appearing with increasing frequency, at least according to later traditions. One evening, a meteor blazes across the heavens. Its bright trail cuts through the darkness before vanishing beyond distant mountains. Another night, priests report unusual behavior among sacred animals. Elsewhere, dreamers describe visions of thrones changing hands. The signs are ambiguous. They always are. Some interpret them as blessings. Others interpret them as warnings. No agreement emerges. The uncertainty itself becomes part of the burden. Because certainty allows action. Uncertainty creates anxiety. You stand beside a sacred fire where wise titans discuss the omens. The flames dance in the darkness. Smoke rises toward the stars. Different voices offer different interpretations. One claims the signs announce prosperity. Another predicts transformation. A third suggests the gods themselves cannot fully understand destiny's design. Such disagreements were common in Greek thought. The future remained mysterious even to divine beings. No one could see every thread of fate. Cronus listens and finds no comfort. The prophecy remains unresolved. The signs remain uncertain. The future remains hidden. Yet the child continues growing. Every passing day brings destiny closer. You begin noticing subtle changes in the king. Nothing dramatic, nothing obvious. Only small shifts. He becomes more cautious, more watchful, more interested in signs and predictions. He pays closer attention to dreams. He asks more questions about omens. He spends longer periods alone. These behaviors appear harmless. Perhaps they are. Yet fear often begins through small habits, tiny adjustments, tiny precautions, tiny compromises. Each one seems reasonable by itself. Together they create something larger, something dangerous. Meanwhile, Rhea notices the change. The queen understands her husband well. She has shared his joys. She has shared his responsibilities. Now she senses a growing distance, a tension he struggles to explain. One evening she asks him directly, "What troubles you?" The surviving myths never preserve his exact answer, but it is easy to imagine the conversation. The cool night air, the glow of torchlight, the sounds of wind moving through nearby trees. A wife seeking honesty. A husband struggling to confront his fear. Perhaps he speaks of responsibility. Perhaps he speaks of uncertainty. Perhaps he avoids the prophecy entirely. Many people do. Sometimes the fears we most need to discuss are the fears we least wish to name. Rhea remains supportive, patient, loving. Yet even she cannot remove the burden forming within him. Because some battles occur entirely inside the mind. And those battles can be the hardest of all. The child approaches birth. The kingdom celebrates. Sacred ceremonies fill temples and shrines. Offerings are placed before divine altars. Songs rise into the evening sky. Everyone anticipates joy. Everyone anticipates continuation. The royal family is growing. The future appears secure. Only Cronus struggles to share that certainty. For where others see a child, he increasingly sees a question, a possibility, a threat. Not because the child has done anything wrong. Not because the child possesses evil intentions. Simply because the prophecy exists. This is the tragedy unfolding before you. Fear is slowly changing the king. Not all at once. Not through dramatic corruption. Through worry. Through doubt. Through the desperate desire to avoid pain. The same fear that once consumed Uranus now begins taking root in his son. And neither realizes how closely their paths are beginning to resemble one another. The irony is almost unbearable. Cronus overthrew his father because fear led to cruelty. Now fear whispers similar ideas into his own heart. The cycle turns. Quietly, patiently, relentlessly. You stand beneath the stars as the final days before the birth arrive. The world remains beautiful. The golden age remains prosperous. Moonlight washes across fields of grain. Sacred fires glow beside temples. The scent of flowering herbs drifts through the night. Everything appears peaceful. Yet hidden beneath that peace lies a choice. A choice that will define the rest of Cronus's life. The child is coming. The prophecy is waiting. And soon the king who conquered heaven will face a challenge unlike any he has ever known. For destiny is no longer approaching from a distance. It is about to enter his own household. And when it does, the age of titans will begin moving toward its darkest chapter. A soft rain falls across the world. You stand beneath a stone colonnade overlooking fertile fields darkened by the passing storm. Water gathers upon olive leaves. The scent of wet earth rises from the ground. Beyond the distant hills, thunder murmurs quietly before fading into silence. The golden age continues. The rivers still flow. The harvests still flourish. The kingdom of Cronus remains strong. Yet within the royal household a moment has arrived that will change everything. The first child is born. Her name is Hestia. Ancient traditions remember her as gentle, steady, and deeply connected to the sacred fire of home. In later ages, countless families would honor her before every meal and every prayer. But tonight she is simply a newborn child, a daughter, a tiny life entering an ancient world. You can almost feel the joy surrounding her arrival. Sacred fires burn brightly, songs echo through Titan halls. Offerings are carried to shrines. Rhea holds her daughter close. The warmth of new life fills the room. For a brief moment, even Cronus allows himself happiness. The prophecy feels distant. The warnings seem foolish. How could this child possibly threaten him? How could something so small inspire fear? The thought almost seems absurd. Almost, because fear rarely obeys reason. It waits patiently, then returns. The old words spoken by Uranus emerge once more from memory. A child will overthrow you. A child, not an army, not a rival titan, a child. The simplicity of the prophecy makes it more frightening. There is no clear enemy to defeat, no battlefield upon which victory can be secured. Only uncertainty, and uncertainty gives fear room to grow. You watch the king standing alone beneath a moonlit sky. The celebrations continue behind him. Laughter drifts through open windows. Torchlight flickers across polished stone. Yet Cronus cannot fully enjoy the moment. The prophecy stands beside him like an unseen companion. Ancient myths often portray fate as unavoidable, not because destiny possesses overwhelming power, but because fear changes behavior. People attempting to avoid prophecy often create the conditions that fulfill it. The Greeks return to this idea again and again. Tonight, that pattern begins revealing itself. Days pass, then weeks. Cronus studies his daughter. He watches her sleep. He watches Rhea care for her. He tells himself the prophecy means nothing. Yet every reassurance eventually collapses. What if the warning is true? What if this child grows stronger? What if she becomes the instrument of fate? The questions multiply, each one feeding the next. The fear deepens, and eventually the king reaches a terrible conclusion. If the prophecy concerns his children, perhaps he can stop it before it begins. The decision does not arrive suddenly. That is important. Many later retellings present Cronus as a monster from the start. The older myths suggest something more tragic. A ruler trapped by fear, a father surrendering to obsession, a man convincing himself that cruelty is necessary. These things rarely happen overnight. They happen step by step, thought by thought, justification by justification, until one day the unimaginable begins feeling reasonable. The night arrives. The palace is quiet. Moonlight spills across marble floors. Outside, cool winds move through olive groves. Inside, Rhea senses something wrong. Perhaps she sees it in her husband's eyes. Perhaps she hears it in his voice. The myths do not say. What they do preserve is the outcome. Cronus takes the child and swallows her. The image shocks modern listeners. It shocked many ancient listeners as well. Yet mythology often uses dramatic symbols to express emotional truths. The act represents absolute control, the desperate attempt to prevent change, the refusal to allow the future its freedom. Most of all, it reveals how deeply fear has transformed him. The child disappears. The prophecy remains. That is the cruel irony. Nothing has been solved. Nothing has been defeated. Yet a terrible boundary has been crossed. You feel the emotional weight immediately. Rhea's grief, Cronus's silence, the emptiness left behind. The household changes. The joy of birth becomes shadowed by loss. And still the prophecy waits. Time passes. Then another child arrives. Demeter, the future goddess of harvest and fertile earth. Again there is celebration. Again there is hope. Again there is fear. And again Cronus makes the same choice. The cycle repeats. Then comes Hera, then Hades, then Poseidon. Each child enters the world carrying enormous potential. Each child brings happiness to Rhea. Each child awakens dread within Cronus. And each child disappears into the darkness of his fear. The tragedy grows heavier with every repetition, because repetition transforms a choice into a pattern into a habit into identity. The ruler who once fought against oppression now becomes its source. The son who challenged fear now serves it. You walk through silent halls where torchlight flickers against stone walls. The atmosphere feels different now, heavier, lonelier. The kingdom beyond the palace still prospers. The golden age continues. Fields remain fertile. The people remain content. Yet the heart of the royal family is breaking. Rhea suffers most visibly. Ancient traditions portray her grief with deep sympathy. She watches child after child vanish. She watches her husband become someone she barely recognizes. And perhaps the hardest part is knowing why. Cronus does not act from hatred. He acts from terror. That distinction does not excuse his choices, but it makes them tragic. Because fear can distort love. Fear can corrupt good intentions. Fear can persuade people that cruelty is protection. The Greeks understood this truth profoundly. It appears throughout their myths. Again and again, you stand beside a sacred spring beneath starlight. The water reflects the heavens above. Ripples move across its surface. Nothing remains still forever. Not water, not kingdoms, not generations. The prophecy continues working in silence. Despite everything Cronus has done, the future remains uncertain. Perhaps he has succeeded. Perhaps he has failed. No one knows, not even the king. And that uncertainty becomes its own punishment. Because fear demands certainty. Fear craves guarantees. Destiny offers neither. As the years pass, the royal household grows quieter. Rhea's sorrow deepens. Cronus becomes increasingly isolated. The distance between them widens. A relationship once built upon warmth now struggles beneath the weight of grief. The consequences of past choices continue unfolding, one decision leading to another, one sacrifice creating the next. The chain cannot easily be broken. Yet fate has not finished weaving its design. Far beyond the sight of the Titan King, another thread is already beginning to move. A final child waits beyond the horizon of the story. A child whose arrival will force Rhea to make a choice of her own. And when that choice comes, the balance between fear and destiny will change forever. For even the mightiest king cannot imprison the future indefinitely. The stars shine cold above the Titan kingdom. You stand upon a marble terrace overlooking fields that stretch toward the horizon. The harvest remains abundant. Rivers continue their steady journey toward distant seas. Villages sleep peacefully beneath the protection of the golden age. From afar, everything appears unchanged. The world still prospers. The kingdom still flourishes. Cronus still rules, yet appearances can be deceptive. For some of the most important changes happen where no one else can see them. Inside the heart, inside the mind, inside the quiet spaces where fear slowly grows. Years have passed since the birth of Hestia. Years since Demeter. Years since Hera. Years since Hades and Poseidon. The children remain imprisoned within their father's body, suspended between existence and absence. The image feels strange to modern ears, yet ancient mythology often speaks through symbols as much as literal events. The meaning remains clear. Cronus has attempted to stop time itself. He has tried to prevent the next generation from taking its place. He has refused to allow the future to arrive. And now he must live with the consequences. You walk through the halls of the Titan Palace. Torchlight flickers across polished stone. The air smells faintly of olive oil and cedarwood. Servants move quietly. Voices remain hushed. No one openly challenges the king. No one questions his authority. Yet something has changed. A subtle tension lingers everywhere, like distant thunder beyond the mountains. Not immediate, not visible, but present. The household no longer feels warm. It feels careful. Ancient storytellers often understood something that later historians would repeat. Fear can secure obedience, but fear rarely creates trust. Cronus has protected his throne. At least he believes he has. Yet every act of protection has created another wound. Those wounds are beginning to shape his world. Most painful of all is the growing distance between himself and Rhea. Once they walked together beneath moonlit groves, speaking of hopes and possibilities. Once they shared the responsibilities of leadership as partners. Now silence often fills the space between them. Not anger, not open hostility. Something quieter, something sadder. Disappointment, grief. The kind of sorrow that emerges when love survives, but trust begins to weaken. You watch them during a ceremonial gathering beneath a starlit sky. Sacred fires burn within bronze braziers. The scent of incense drifts through the cool evening air. Titans gather for rituals celebrating the prosperity of the realm. From a distance, Cronus and Rhea appear united, king and queen standing together. Yet appearances conceal the truth. Rhea carries memories no ceremony can erase. 5 children lost. 5 moments of joy transformed into sorrow. 5 reminders that fear now governs the man she once admired. Ancient traditions often portray Rhea with remarkable dignity during this period. She does not rebel immediately. She does not abandon her husband. She endures. She observes. She waits. Patience can be a form of strength, and Rhea possesses more strength than many realize. Meanwhile, Cronus finds himself increasingly alone. This loneliness surprises him. After all, he possesses everything a ruler could desire: power, security, prosperity, respect. The world itself seems to acknowledge his authority. Yet loneliness often grows strongest when surrounded by things that cannot provide comfort. A throne cannot offer companionship. Power cannot offer trust. Authority cannot offer peace. The king begins spending more time by himself. You see him standing upon high cliffs overlooking dark oceans. You see him wandering sacred groves late at night. You see him studying signs among the stars. Always searching, always wondering, always watching. Because despite everything he has done, certainty remains impossible. That is the cruelest part of his situation. The prophecy has not disappeared. It remains unresolved. Perhaps he has prevented it. Perhaps not. No divine messenger arrives with answers. No oracle confirms success. The future remains hidden. And hidden things often inspire the greatest fear. One night, according to a lesser-known tradition, Cronus experiences a dream. He stands alone within a vast field. The grain stretches endlessly beneath a darkening sky. At first, everything appears peaceful. Then the harvest begins moving. Not from wind, not from weather, from countless unseen hands beneath the earth. The grain bends, falls, rises again. New stalks replace old ones. The cycle continues endlessly. Cronus awakens before dawn. The dream disturbs him. Some ancient interpreters believed it symbolized generational change. Others saw it as a reminder that life itself depends upon succession. Nothing grows forever. Nothing rules forever. Everything eventually yields its place. Whether the dream carried genuine prophetic meaning remains unknown, yet its emotional impact is undeniable. The king becomes more unsettled. You notice another transformation occurring. The memories of Uranus return more frequently now. Not the public memory, the private memory. The father who feared his children. The father who imprisoned potential threats. The father who believed control could defeat destiny. Cronus once judged those actions harshly. Now he understands them. That realization frightens him, because understanding is dangerously close to becoming. Ancient Greek myths often reveal patterns repeating across generations. Children inherit more than appearances. They inherit fears, habits, wounds, unresolved struggles. The cycle that destroyed Uranus is now repeating within Cronus. Not because fate demands it, because fear encourages it. Because fear narrows possibilities until only one path seems visible. The irony becomes almost unbearable. The liberator becomes the jailer. The rebel becomes the ruler he once opposed. And still he tells himself everything is necessary. Everything serves a purpose. Everything protects the future. This is how fear often speaks, not as a monster, as a reasonable voice offering justification. A voice explaining why extreme actions are required. A voice promising safety. A voice rarely questioned until too late. Outside the palace walls, however, life continues beautifully. The golden age remains genuine. Children laugh beside rivers. Harvests fill granaries. The earth provides generously. Many later Greeks would remember this period with admiration, and perhaps they were right to do so. The kingdom itself still functions remarkably well. The tragedy lies elsewhere, not in the land, not in the people, in the king. For prosperity cannot heal every wound. Success cannot silence every fear. You stand beside a sacred spring as moonlight reflects across its surface. The water remains calm, yet beneath the surface currents continue moving, invisible, persistent. The same is true of destiny. The prophecy remains active. The future continues approaching, and somewhere within Rhea, a decision is slowly forming. She has endured grief. She has endured silence. She has endured helplessness. But endurance has limits. Soon another child will come. Another chance, another test. And when that moment arrives, Rhea will no longer be willing to surrender everything to fear. The queen has remained patient. The queen has remained loyal. The queen has remained silent. But silence is beginning to end. And far beyond the awareness of Cronus' hope is preparing to enter the story once more. A pale moon hangs above the mountains. You stand upon a lonely ridge where cool winds sweep across the earth. Far below, forests stretch into darkness. Streams glimmer like silver threads beneath the stars. The air smells of pine stone and distant rain. The world remains beautiful, yet within the heart of the Titan kingdom, sorrow has become familiar. Years have passed. The wounds left by lost children have never truly healed. Rhea carries them quietly. Cronus carries them differently. One suffers through grief, the other through fear. And now destiny approaches once again. Another child is coming. The news spreads through the palace like sunlight after a long storm. Servants whisper hopeful prayers. Sacred fires burn brighter. Offerings appear at shrines. The kingdom anticipates celebration, yet inside the royal household joy arrives tangled with dread. For both parents understand what happened before, and both know what may happen again. You watch Rhea standing alone beside a sacred spring. The water reflects the stars above. The night is silent except for the gentle sound of flowing water. She places her hand upon the surface. Ripples spread outward. Small circles becoming larger circles, one action creating consequences far beyond itself. The image feels symbolic, because every choice made by this family has created consequences. The rebellion against Uranus, the prophecy, the swallowed children. Each event continues influencing the next. Nothing stands alone. Everything remains connected. That truth now weighs heavily upon Rhea. Ancient traditions portray her as deeply thoughtful during this period. She has spent years watching fear transform the man she loves, years watching hope disappear, years watching children vanish before they could truly live. This time feels different. This time something inside her refuses to surrender. One evening, according to several ancient accounts, Rhea seeks guidance. Different traditions preserve different destinations. Some say she travels to sacred places hidden among mountains. Others claim she turns to Gaia herself. A few suggest she consults ancient powers older than the Titans. The details vary. The purpose remains the same. She seeks wisdom. She seeks help. She seeks a path beyond fear. You follow her through moonlit landscapes untouched by time. The scent of wild herbs drifts through the cool air. Owls call softly from distant trees. Mist gathers among ancient rocks. The journey feels less like travel and more like pilgrimage. A mother searching for hope. A queen searching for courage. A woman searching for a future. Eventually she reaches Gaia. The Earth Mother has watched everything unfold. She witnessed the fall of Uranus. She witnessed the rise of Cronus. She witnessed the sorrow that followed. Few beings understand the situation more completely. Imagine their conversation. The earth beneath them warm and alive. Stars shining overhead. The scent of soil and growing things surrounding them. Rhea speaks of her grief, her fear, her helplessness. Gaia listens. Perhaps because she understands those emotions better than anyone. After all, she too once watched children suffer. She too once confronted a ruler consumed by fear. The pattern has returned. Only the names have changed. Ancient mythology often moves through such cycles. Not because history repeats exactly, because human nature repeats. And divine nature in Greek myth often reflects human truths. Gaia offers a plan. Simple, dangerous, hopeful. The child must be hidden, protected, removed from Cronus's reach. For the first time in many years, another possibility appears. Not submission, not despair, resistance. Rhea listens carefully. The future begins taking shape. Yet uncertainty remains. Will the plan succeed? Will Cronus discover the truth? Will destiny finally find a path through all the barriers placed before it? No one knows. That uncertainty gives the story its tension. The Greeks rarely imagined fate as straightforward. Destiny unfolds through risks, through choices, through courage. The outcome remains hidden until the final moment. Meanwhile, strange signs continue appearing throughout the kingdom. One night, a bright star shines unusually close to the horizon. Another evening, sacred birds gather upon temple roofs. Elsewhere, dreamers speak of a young oak tree growing from a crack in solid stone. Ancient listeners would have recognized such symbols immediately. New life, unexpected growth, strength emerging from impossible circumstances. Whether these signs truly occurred matters less than what they represent. The universe itself seems aware that something important approaches. You return to the palace as the time of birth draws near. The atmosphere feels different now. Rhea carries a secret. Gaia carries a secret. Perhaps even destiny carries a secret. Only Cronus remains unaware. The king continues watching for threats, continues studying omens, continues searching for danger, yet he searches in the wrong direction. Fear often does that. It narrows attention. It convinces people they understand where danger lies. Meanwhile, reality moves elsewhere. You almost pity him. Not because his actions deserve sympathy, but because he has become trapped inside his own fear. The prison once imposed upon his children now surrounds him as well. Invisible, mental, self-created. The most difficult prisons often are. At night, he stands upon high terraces staring into the heavens. The stars seem unusually bright. The wind feels colder. The silence feels deeper. Something is changing. He senses it. Yet he cannot identify what. The uncertainty troubles him. Ancient myths frequently describe this feeling, the awareness that fate is approaching without revealing its form. like distant thunder heard before a storm becomes visible. You know something he does not. The future is already moving. The plan has already begun. The child has already become the center of forces larger than any individual will. Soon a birth will occur. Soon a deception will unfold. Soon a young god will enter the world. And that young god will carry not only his own destiny, but the accumulated hopes of everyone wounded by fear. For Rhea has chosen action. Gaia has chosen intervention. And the prophecy has chosen its path. The Age of Titans still appears strong. The throne of Cronus still appears secure. The Golden Age still seems eternal. Yet appearances can be deceiving. Far away, hidden among mountains and sacred places, preparations are already underway. The child is coming. The future is coming. And for the first time since the prophecy was spoken, destiny is no longer merely waiting. Destiny is acting. Word count 1265. The night is filled with the sound of distant waves. You stand upon the rugged coast of a remote island. Moonlight glitters across dark water. Sea winds carry the scent of salt and wild thyme. Above, countless stars shine with quiet brilliance, watching a story unfold far from the throne of Cronus. The child has been born, and destiny has taken its first decisive step. Ancient traditions tell the story in different ways. Some place the birth within a sacred cave on the island of Crete. Others preserve variations involving different mountains and hidden sanctuaries. Historians continue to debate which versions emerged first. Yet all surviving traditions agree on the essential truth. Rhea succeeded. The child escaped. The future survived. When the hour of birth arrived, Rhea carried out Gaia's plan. The newborn son entered the world healthy and strong. His name was Zeus. At the same moment, another drama unfolded. Cronus expected another child, another threat, another opportunity to prevent prophecy. Rhea presented him with a carefully wrapped stone. The deception worked. The king, consumed by fear and certainty, accepted what he believed he saw, and the stone disappeared into him just as the others had. The image is strange, almost surreal, yet its symbolism remains powerful. Fear had become so strong that it blinded him. The ruler of the cosmos could no longer distinguish appearance from reality. Meanwhile, the true child traveled beyond his reach. You follow the journey beneath starlit skies. The infant Zeus is carried through mountain paths hidden by mist. The air feels cool and damp. Pine forests whisper in the darkness. Owls watch silently from ancient branches. Every step carries risk. Every shadow might conceal discovery. Yet the journey continues, because hope often demands courage. The destination lies far from the centers of power, a hidden refuge, a place where the future can grow unseen. Ancient myths frequently describe caves as sacred locations. They symbolize mystery, transformation, protection. The boundary between one world and another. It feels appropriate that Zeus begins life in such a place. The future king of Olympus starts not upon a throne, not amid celebration, but in secrecy, in darkness, in uncertainty. You step into the cave itself. The air feels cool against your skin. Water drips softly from stone ceilings. Torchlight flickers across walls, glittering with minerals. Outside, the sea continues its endless conversation with the shore. Inside, a child sleeps. Few scenes in mythology carry such quiet significance. The most powerful ruler of the future lies hidden within a cave, while the current ruler believes himself safe. Ancient audiences would have recognized the irony immediately. The prophecy is already unfolding. Cronus simply cannot see it. Different traditions describe various guardians watching over Zeus during these years. Some speak of nymphs who nurture him. Others mention divine caretakers entrusted with his safety. One famous story tells of the goat Amalthea providing nourishment for the infant god. Another speaks of armored guardians striking shields together whenever Zeus cried. Their noise concealed the child's voice from distant ears. Whether taken literally or symbolically, these stories reveal something important. Many forces unite to protect him. Not because he has earned loyalty, not yet, because he represents possibility. The possibility that fear will not rule forever. You watch the child grow. The years pass differently in myth. Not measured through calendars, measured through transformation. One season becomes another. Moonlight gives way to sunlight. Winter rains yield to spring blossoms, and slowly Zeus matures. He learns the rhythms of nature, the sounds of the sea, the silence of mountain nights, the feeling of wind moving across high cliffs. His childhood differs completely from the life Cronus expects for a future ruler. There is no palace, no throne room, no royal ceremony. Instead, there are caves, forests, streams, Open skies. Some modern interpreters find symbolic meaning here. The future king develops close to nature rather than power, close to freedom rather than control. Whether intentional or not, the contrast feels striking. Meanwhile, far away, Cronus continues ruling. The Golden Age remains prosperous. The kingdom remains stable. Outwardly, everything appears successful. Yet something within the king never fully settles. You see him standing beneath star-filled skies, listening to reports of unusual omens, watching birds circle temple towers, studying dreams that refuse to leave his memory. The prophecy should be finished. The threat should be gone. Yet peace never arrives. This reveals one of the deepest truths within the story. Fear cannot be satisfied. It always asks for more certainty, more control, more guarantees, and reality rarely provides them. Cronus possesses everything he believed he needed. Still he worries. Still he watches. Still he doubts. The prison of fear has become self-sustaining. You return to the hidden island where Zeus continues growing. Ancient storytellers often describe signs of unusual greatness appearing during his youth. Not dramatic miracles, subtle hints, a remarkable confidence, an unusual presence, the sense that destiny surrounds him. Such stories appear in many heroic traditions, yet they serve an important purpose. They remind listeners that greatness often develops quietly, long before the world notices, long before history records names, long before crowns and victories. The future is being shaped in small moments, in conversations, in lessons, in experiences. Zeus learns, observes, grows stronger, and all the while he remains hidden from the one person most desperate to find him. Ancient Greek audiences must have felt a peculiar tension during this part of the story. They already knew the ending. They knew Zeus would survive. Yet the suspense remained, not because of what would happen, because of how it would happen. How would the child eventually confront Cronus? How would destiny complete its design? Those questions remain unanswered. For now, one evening, according to a lesser-known tradition, a wandering seer experiences a vision. A great eagle rises from a mountain peak. It climbs higher and higher until its wings touch the stars. Below, an ancient tree begins to crack, not from violence, from age. The symbolism feels clear. A new power ascending, an old power weakening. Whether the vision truly belonged to ancient mythology or emerged later remains uncertain. Yet it captures the spirit of this chapter beautifully. The future rises while the past remains unaware. You stand once more beside the cave. The sea breeze drifts through the entrance. The stars shine overhead. Inside, the young Zeus sleeps, still hidden, still protected, still unknown to the king who fears him. But not for much longer, because childhood cannot last forever. Secrets cannot remain hidden forever. And destiny, once it begins moving, rarely stops. The child has survived. The prophecy has found its path. And somewhere beyond the mountains and sea, the first cracks are already beginning to appear in the certainty of Cronus. Soon those cracks will widen. Soon the hidden child will step into the light. And when that happens, the fate of the Titan King will finally begin catching up with him. Dawn rises slowly over the hidden mountains. You stand near the mouth of the sacred cave, where cool mist drifts between dark pines. The sea below glimmers beneath the first pale light. Birds call from distant cliffs, and the air smells of salt stone and wild herbs. The child hidden from time is no longer a child. Zeus has grown, strong, restless, aware. For many years he has lived beyond the reach of Cronus. He has learned the language of storms. He has listened to waves striking the shore. He has watched eagles circle high above mountain peaks, as if the sky itself were teaching him to rise. Yet secrecy cannot last forever. A life lived in hiding eventually asks a question. When will the hidden one step into the open? That question now surrounds Zeus. And though this is his moment of awakening, you remain close to Cronus. Because every movement of Zeus is also a movement within Cronus's destiny. The Titan King still rules far away. The Golden Age remains outwardly calm. Fields ripen beneath warm sunlight. Sacred fires burn at village hearths. Rivers continue their peaceful paths through green valleys. Yet beneath this prosperity, something unstable has entered the world. A living contradiction. The son Cronus believes destroyed is alive. The future he tried to swallow is walking beneath the sun. Ancient traditions disagree about how Zeus first learned the full truth. Some say Gaia revealed it. Others say Rhea spoke in secret. Another version suggests a wise figure named Metis guided him with cunning intelligence. The details vary, but all versions preserve one emotional truth. Zeus discovers that his life is not only his own. He carries the grief of Rhea, the hopes of Gaia, the fate of his swallowed siblings, and the ancient prophecy spoken by Uranus. That is a heavy inheritance. You watch Zeus standing beneath a storm-dark sky. Wind moves through his hair. Clouds gather above distant peaks. He listens as the truth unfolds. His father swallowed his brothers and sisters. His mother saved him through deception. His existence has been hidden because fear sits upon the throne of the world. Imagine what such knowledge does to him. It gives him purpose, but also pain. To be born into prophecy is not simple glory. It means your life has been shaped before you could choose it. It means others have suffered so that you might live. It means the future waits with open hands, and perhaps with sharp teeth. For Cronus, though far away, this truth begins stirring the unseen currents of fate. The chain of consequences tightens. His choice to devour his children did not end danger. It created an enemy raised in secrecy. It created a mother willing to betray him. It created allies who could unite against him. Fear tried to prevent rebellion. Fear prepared it. This is one of the oldest lessons in the myth. The more desperately Cronus tried to stop destiny, the more faithfully he served it. You return to the Titan Palace. It is evening there. Torchlight glows across marble halls. The scent of incense and olive oil hangs in the air. Cronus sits in majesty surrounded by symbols of power. Yet his face appears troubled. Perhaps he does not know why. Perhaps some part of him senses that the world has shifted. A warning arrives in a dream. He sees a stone in his stomach. At first it lies still. Then cracks begin spreading across it. From within the stone comes the sound of thunder. Cronus wakes before dawn. The palace is silent. Only the faint wind moves through open windows. He tells himself the dream means nothing. But the body remembers what the mind tries to deny. The stone was never a child. Deep inside him the deception waits, not merely as an object, as proof that fear has made him blind. Soon, according to the most familiar tradition, Zeus begins preparing the act that will expose the truth. Some accounts say Meti gives Cronus a potion. Others describe a cunning plan devised with Rhea's help. Surviving evidence suggests ancient storytellers enjoyed these variations because they emphasized intelligence over brute force. Cronus defeated Uranus with a sickle. Zeus will begin by using deception. The son defeats the father through the father's own weakness. Cronus once relied upon secrecy against Uranus. Now secrecy returns against him. The pattern is almost too perfect. You stand beside Rhea in a quiet chamber before the plan begins. Moonlight spills across the floor. Her face carries years of grief, but also resolve. She has waited through silence. She has endured loss. Now endurance becomes action. Her relationship with Cronus has changed beyond recovery. Love has not vanished entirely. That makes the moment harder. She is not betraying a stranger. She is resisting the man she once trusted, the man whose fear destroyed their family. Greek myth often understands loyalty as complicated. Rhea's loyalty to Cronus conflicts with her loyalty to her children. Her loyalty to the past conflicts with her loyalty to the future. She chooses the future, and that choice changes everything. The plan unfolds quietly. Not with armies, not with thunder, not yet. Cronus receives the drink, or the charm, or the hidden force of divine cunning. Ancient versions differ, but the outcome remains the same. His body can no longer hold what fear imprisoned. One by one, the swallowed children return. Hestia, Demeter, Hera, Hades, Poseidon. They emerge alive, preserved by the strange logic of myth. Unaged, unbroken, waiting. The image is astonishing. It is also deeply symbolic. The future cannot remain buried forever. The hearth returns. The harvest returns. Marriage and sovereignty return. The underworld returns. The sea returns. Every domain Cronus tried to suppress now stands outside him. Separate, awake, free. You can almost feel the silence after it happens. The palace air grows cold. Torches flicker wildly. Somewhere outside, thunder mutters over distant hills. Cronus sees his children. The children he feared. The children he denied. The children who now look upon him not as protector but as jailer. What does he feel? The myths do not tell us directly, but you can imagine the collision inside him. Shock, rage, shame, terror, perhaps even grief. Because in that moment, Cronus must understand something terrible. Everything he feared has arrived, and he helped bring it here. Zeus now stands before the family he has restored. No longer hidden, no longer only a child of prophecy. He becomes a leader. The siblings look to him not because he is oldest, but because he acted, because he survived, because destiny moved through him. This is another wound for Cronus. His authority does not merely face a threat, it faces replacement. The pattern spoken by Uranus has become visible. Father against child, old order against new, past against future. Yet the story is not finished. Cronus remains powerful. The Titans are not easily defeated. A throne held for ages does not fall in a single night. The beginning of the end is not the end itself. It is only the first crack in the wall. Outside, the world still appears calm. The golden age has not yet collapsed. Fields still wave beneath moonlight. Rivers still sing through valleys. But the hidden peace has broken. A divine sign appears above the mountains. Lightning flashes without rain. For a moment, the sky glows white. Then darkness returns. Ancient listeners would have understood. The storm has announced itself. Cronus stands at the edge of war. Zeus stands at the edge of destiny. And between them waits the terrible question that began long ago beneath the shadow of Uranus. Can any ruler escape the fate he once created? The answer has not yet come. But far beyond the palace, among mountains, caves, and gathering clouds, the young gods are beginning to choose their sides. And the age of Titans has started trembling beneath their feet. The first storm arrives without warning. You stand upon a mountain peak as dark clouds gather across the horizon. Lightning flickers within their depths. Wind rushes through rocky passes and bends ancient trees. Far below, rivers churn beneath skies heavy with rain. The world feels different now. The quiet certainty of the Golden Age has vanished. The peace that once defined Cronus's reign has fractured. The prophecy has stepped fully into the light, and now father and son prepare for war. Ancient Greeks called this conflict the Titanomachy, the War of the Titans. Yet when you look closely, the struggle is about far more than armies and battles. It is a conflict between generations, between fear and change, between a ruler trying to preserve the world he knows, and a younger force determined to create something new. At the center stands Cronus, still king, still powerful, still unwilling to surrender. You watch him standing upon a high terrace overlooking the lands he once governed in peace. The air smells of approaching rain. His robes move in the wind. His gaze remains fixed upon distant mountains where opposition gathers. Years earlier, he feared a prophecy. Now that prophecy has become reality. Zeus lives. His siblings stand beside him. The future has arrived. Yet even now, Cronus does not see himself as a villain. That distinction matters. Many ancient myths become more meaningful when viewed through the eyes of every participant. From Zeus's perspective, liberation is necessary. From Cronus's perspective, resistance is necessary. He built this world. He defended this kingdom. He presided over an age remembered as paradise. Why should he simply surrender it? The question is understandable, and therein lies the tragedy. Both sides believe themselves justified. You travel through the camps of the opposing forces. Night falls across rugged hills. Sacred fires burn beneath the stars. The scent of smoke drifts through the cool darkness. Warriors gather in small groups, speaking quietly about what lies ahead. The younger gods stand with Zeus. Many Titans remain loyal to Cronus, yet not all choose the same side. Ancient traditions preserve different lists and variations. Some Titans remain neutral, others shift allegiances. Even divine families fracture under the pressure of conflict. Relationships, once defined by kinship, become complicated by loyalty. The consequences of past choices continue unfolding. Every decision Cronus made now returns to confront him. The swallowed children, the years of fear, the growing distance from Rio. Nothing remains isolated. Everything contributes to this moment. The chain of consequences has reached its destination. One evening before the great battles fully begin, a strange omen appears. A massive eagle circles high above the mountains. For hours it rides the wind without descending. Some interpret the bird as a sign favoring Zeus. Others reject that conclusion. Ancient people rarely agreed on the meaning of omens. Interpretation often revealed more about the observer than the sign itself. Cronus hears reports of the eagle. He dismisses them publicly. Privately, perhaps he wonders. The older he grows, the more difficult certainty becomes. That is another burden of leadership. Every choice carries doubt. Every path contains risk. You stand beside the Titan King late at night. The stars shine between drifting clouds. The wind feels cold. Far away, thunder rolls across distant peaks. Cronus remains awake long after others have retired. Perhaps he remembers the night he challenged Uranus. Perhaps he remembers holding the stone sickle. Perhaps he remembers believing he could create a better future. Those memories matter because they reveal something painful. The young rebel and the aging king are the same person. The passage of time has transformed one into the other. Ancient mythology often explores this uncomfortable truth. The qualities we oppose in youth sometimes emerge within us later. The future version of ourselves can become unrecognizable, yet traces always remain. You can still see the ambitious titan who once dreamed of change. You can still see the son who wanted justice. Those qualities never vanished completely. Fear simply grew stronger. Meanwhile, Zeus prepares his own forces. The young god understands something crucial. Cronus remains enormously powerful. Victory will not come easily. Ancient myths describe years of struggle, battles shaking mountains, storms raging across the heavens, the earth itself trembling beneath divine conflict. The imagery feels grand because the stakes are grand. The future order of the cosmos hangs in the balance. Yet amid all this spectacle, your attention returns to Cronus. How does he endure such years? How does he carry the weight of knowing his greatest fear has become reality? The answer seems to lie in pride. Not pride in the simple sense, something deeper. The belief that his rule matters. The belief that his world deserves preservation. The belief that surrender would betray everything he built. Pride often receives negative treatment in mythology. Yet pride can also inspire perseverance. It can encourage sacrifice. It can provide strength during impossible circumstances. Like many emotions, it possesses two faces. Cronus draws strength from it. He must. The war continues. Ancient stories tell of shifting fortunes, victories followed by defeats, hope followed by disappointment. No side achieves immediate success. The struggle becomes exhausting. Even immortals can grow weary. You walk across battle-scarred landscapes. Rain falls upon broken stone. The scent of wet earth fills the air. Clouds obscure the stars. The world itself seems tired. And still the conflict continues. One tradition describes prophetic dreams experienced during this period. Cronus dreams of standing within a vast field at harvest time. Golden grain surrounds him. The same image that appeared years earlier. Yet now the field is changing. The old stalks fall. New growth rises. No matter how desperately he tries to stop the process, the cycle continues. He awakens troubled. The dream feels impossible to ignore. Ancient audiences would have recognized the symbolism immediately. The harvest cannot remain forever uncut. One generation cannot remain forever in power. Nature itself teaches this lesson. The Greeks saw it in crops, in seasons, in families, in kingdoms. Cronus begins confronting a possibility he has resisted for years. Perhaps destiny was never his true enemy. Perhaps change itself was. And change cannot be defeated. Only delayed. The realization arrives slowly, incomplete, painful. Yet it grows stronger with each passing year of war. Outside lightning flashes across the sky. The storm illuminates mountains for a brief moment before darkness returns. You stand beside the aging king watching distant horizons. The war is not finished. The outcome remains uncertain. But something within Cronus is beginning to shift. Not surrender, not acceptance. Awareness. The awareness that some struggles cannot be won through force alone. And beyond those mountains, Zeus is gathering allies powerful enough to alter the balance entirely. For hidden deep within the cosmos remain beings imprisoned long ago. Ancient powers connected directly to the original sins of Uranus. Powers whose release will reshape the war. And when they return to the light, the fate of Cronus will move closer than ever before. The storm continues building. The mountains continue trembling. And the age of Titans approaches its final reckoning. The storm does not end. You stand beneath a sky bruised with thunderclouds. Rain falls across broken hills and darkened valleys. The air tastes metallic, as if lightning has passed too close. Far away, the sea roars against cliffs with a voice older than memory. The war has lasted long enough for even immortals to feel weary. The golden age is no longer golden. Its fields remain, but they seem quieter now. Its rivers still run, but their music feels changed. Peace has become memory, and Cronus, once the guardian of harmony, now rules a world divided by his own fear. That realization comes slowly, like dawn behind heavy clouds. At first he resists it. He tells himself the younger gods caused the war. He tells himself Zeus brought ruin upon a stable world. He tells himself that if his children had remained contained, peace would have endured. But in the silence after battle, another thought begins to trouble him. What if peace built on imprisonment was never peace? What if the golden age had already begun dying inside his house? These questions have no easy answers. Ancient traditions do not tell us whether Cronus ever fully understood himself. Some versions remember only the tyrant. Others preserve hints of a fallen king shaped by dread. The uncertainty matters, because myth often leaves space where the listener must enter. You watch him walking through a ruined grove at twilight. Broken branches lie across wet earth. The scent of rain-soaked leaves fills the air. Once groves like this echoed with celebration. Now only wind moves between the trees. Cronus pauses beside an old sacred stone. Perhaps he remembers Rhea standing beside him in happier years. Perhaps he remembers their first child. Hestia, the warmth of the hearth, then Demeter. The promise of harvest, then Hera. The future of royal union, then Hades and Poseidon. Depth and sea, all of them were not merely threats. They were worlds waiting to exist. And he swallowed them, not because they attacked him, because he feared what they might become. That is the wound at the center of his story. Fear made possibility look like danger. The war turns when Zeus releases the ancient prisoners, the Cyclopes, the 100-handed ones, beings once hidden by Uranus and later kept from full freedom by the old order. Here the consequence chain becomes clear. Uranus imprisoned them first. Cronus rose through that injustice. Yet he did not fully heal what the old age had broken. Some traditions suggest he too confined them again. Others emphasize their later alliance with Zeus. Either way, the symbolism is powerful. The sins of the first father return to defeat the second. The buried past rises. The forgotten children become decisive. You stand near the deep places of the world as they emerge. The earth trembles. Cold air rushes from caverns. Torches flicker wildly in unseen winds. The Cyclopes bring gifts of terrible power. Thunder, lightning, the weaponry of storm. The 100-handed ones bring force beyond measure. Stone Mountain and sky seem to obey their strength. Zeus now possesses what Cronus cannot match. Not only weapons, alliances, trust. The younger gods fight for a future together. Cronus fights increasingly alone. That difference matters. Power held through fear isolates. Power shared through purpose gathers strength. The final battles shake creation. Mountains groan beneath divine force. Clouds split open with lightning. The seas rise in white fury against the shore. Sacred fires burn low beneath rain and smoke. You feel the world trembling under your feet. Yet amid the vastness, the emotional center remains small. A father facing his child. A king facing the end of his age. A being finally meeting the future he tried to avoid. Cronus stands among the titans who remain loyal. Some fight from conviction. Some from habit. Some because old bonds are hard to break. But the old certainty has faded. The prophecy no longer sounds like a warning. It sounds like history. One night before the last defeat, Cronus dreams again. He stands beneath the same star-filled sky from the night Uranus fell. In his hands rests the stone sickle. Before him stands his younger self. Silent, watchful, unwounded by kingship. The young Cronus asks no question. He only looks at him. And the old king understands. This is not judgment from Zeus. Not judgment from Rhea. Not even judgment from fate. It is judgment from the person he once hoped to become. He wakes before dawn. The air is cold. No birds sing. For a moment there is only silence. Then distant thunder begins. The final day has arrived. Ancient sources describe the end with grandeur. The 100-handed ones hurl massive stones. Zeus fills the heavens with lightning. The titans are overwhelmed. The earth shakes as if creation itself is choosing a new ruler. Cronus fights. He does not vanish quietly. Pride remains within him. Strength remains within him. The memory of kingship remains within him. But strength is no longer enough. The world has changed. The relationships around him have changed. Even destiny has changed from possibility into fact. At last, Titan rule collapses. Cronus falls, not merely from a throne, from an entire vision of existence. The age of Titans, which began beneath hope and rebellion, ends beneath storm and consequence. You stand in the stillness after battle. Rain softens, thunder moves farther away. Mist rises from shattered ground. The scent of wet stone fills the air. For the first time in ages, the world is silent. Not peaceful yet, only stunned. Zeus stands victorious. The younger gods look toward the future. Rhea's lost children stand free beneath open sky. And Cronus, defeated at last, faces the truth he spent his life resisting. The future cannot be swallowed. It cannot be hidden. It cannot be ruled by fear forever. This is the sorrow of his life. He overthrew a fearful father, then became one. He created a golden world, then poisoned its heart. He tried to prevent loss and made loss inevitable. Yet even now his story is not simple. No myth this old remains simple. For somewhere beneath judgment lies tragedy. Somewhere beneath tyranny lies the memory of a young titan who once answered his mother's call. The cosmos prepares its punishment. The new order must decide what to do with the old king. And far below the bright world beyond sunlight, beyond harvest, beyond sacred fires, a darkness waits. Its name is Tartarus. Soon Cronus will descend into that place of silence. And there, stripped of throne and kingdom, he will become something different. Not ruler, not rebel, but memory. The rain has ended. You stand beneath a sky washed clean by the storm. Stars emerge one by one through drifting clouds. Cool air moves across the mountains where the last echoes of war have faded into silence. The age of Titans is over. The battles have ended. The prophecy has been fulfilled. And Cronus, once the ruler of the cosmos, now faces a journey unlike any he has taken before. Not upward, not toward power, downward, into Tartarus. The name alone carried immense weight in the ancient imagination. Tartarus was not merely a prison, it was one of the deepest places in existence. A realm beneath the earth, a place so distant that ancient poets struggled to describe its scale. Some claimed an anvil dropped from heaven would fall for 9 days before reaching the earth, then fall another 9 days before reaching Tartarus. Whether meant literally or symbolically, the message is clear. This is separation, distance, exile. You follow the defeated king as he approaches his fate. The air grows colder. The light fades. The familiar scents of forests and fields disappear. No olive groves stand here. No harvests sway in the wind. No sacred festivals fill the night with song. Only stone, shadow, and silence. The contrast feels painful. For centuries, Cronus lived beneath open skies. He ruled mountains, rivers, valleys, and seas. Now he descends into darkness. Many myths would end here. The villain is defeated. The hero triumphs. Justice prevails. But Greek mythology often resists such simple conclusions. It remains interested in something deeper. What happens after the fall? What remains when power disappears? Who are you when titles no longer matter? These questions now surround Cronus. You stand at the edge of Tartarus. Ancient walls rise from darkness. The air feels still and heavy. Far above the stars seem impossibly distant. The defeated titans are gathered. Some remain angry. Some remain defiant. Others appear exhausted. A long war leaves marks even upon immortal beings. Cronus says little. Perhaps there is nothing left to say. Or perhaps he is finally listening. For much of his life he reacted. He feared. He controlled. He resisted. Now resistance has ended. Only reflection remains. Ancient storytellers preserve different traditions regarding his imprisonment. Some accounts place him in Tartarus forever. Others suggest his fate eventually softened. A few later traditions even describe periods of reconciliation and peace. Historians continue debating how these versions developed. The uncertainty itself is fascinating. It suggests later generations struggled with Cronus. Was he merely a tyrant, or was he something more complicated? The myths never fully decide, and perhaps that is why he remains memorable. Perfect villains rarely endure, complicated figures do. You sit beside the fallen king in imagination. No throne separates him from others now. No crown marks his authority. No servants rush to obey commands. For the first time since his youth, power has been stripped away. Many people fear such a condition. Yet ancient wisdom often suggests something surprising. Sometimes loss reveals truths success concealed. You wonder what thoughts occupy Cronus during these endless years. Does he remember Gaia, the mother who trusted him? Does he remember Uranus, the father he overthrew? Does he remember Rhea, the companion whose love he gradually lost? Or perhaps he remembers his children, the children he feared before he ever knew them. Hestia, Demeter, Hera, Hades, Poseidon, Zeus, names that once inspired anxiety, names that now define the future. The irony is profound. Everything Cronus feared became essential to the world. The hearth warmed homes. Harvests nourished humanity. Marriage created order. The sea connected distant lands. The underworld gave structure to death. And Zeus established the new cosmic balance. The future he tried to prevent became the future that endured. Ancient audiences would have recognized the lesson. Fear often misidentifies its enemies. What threatens our comfort may actually sustain the future. What challenges our authority may strengthen the world. Such truths are difficult to accept, especially for rulers, especially for parents, especially for anyone asked to let go. You walk through the dark landscapes of Tartarus. The silence feels different from ordinary silence. It is deep, ancient, almost physical. The air smells of stone and earth untouched by sunlight. Water drips somewhere far away. The sound echoes endlessly. Time itself feels altered here. Perhaps that is appropriate, because later traditions would increasingly connect Cronus with time. The association did not exist clearly in the earliest myths, yet over centuries the connection grew, partly through language, partly through symbolism. The ruler who feared the future became linked with time itself, a fascinating transformation. Perhaps people sensed something meaningful in the connection. Cronus spent his life fighting change. Time is change. Cronus tried to stop succession. Time makes succession inevitable. The symbolism feels almost unavoidable. Meanwhile, above Tartarus, the cosmos enters a new age. Olympus rises. The younger gods establish their order. Human history continues unfolding. Generations are born, live, and pass away. The world moves forward. That movement is precisely what Cronus spent so long resisting. And now he can only watch, or perhaps only imagine. One ancient tradition preserves a curious detail. It suggests that even in defeat, the memory of the Golden Age never disappeared. Mortals continued speaking of it. Poets continued celebrating it. People remembered the peace associated with Cronus's reign. This matters, because it means his legacy was never entirely destroyed. The king fell. The memory endured. History often works this way. Human beings rarely remember others as wholly good or wholly evil. Instead, they remember contradictions. Successes alongside failures. Wisdom alongside mistakes. Cronus becomes such a figure. The fallen king. The fearful father. The ruler of a lost paradise. All at once. You stand beneath the distant stars visible far above Tartarus. Their light reaches even here. Faint. Remote. But present. The image feels symbolic. Even in darkness, memory survives. Even in exile, stories continue. Even after defeat, meaning remains possible. The reign of Cronus has ended. His imprisonment has begun. Yet his story is not finished. Because legends rarely end with a fall. They continue through memory, through interpretation, through the generations that ask what the story meant. And above the world, mortals are already beginning to tell stories about the Titan King. Some with fear, some with sympathy, some with longing. The debate has only begun, for the ruler imprisoned beneath the earth is about to become something else entirely. Not a king of the present, but a king of memory. The centuries drift past like leaves carried upon a slow river. You stand beneath a sky filled with stars, looking down upon a world that no longer belongs to Cronus. Villages have grown into cities. Shrines have become temples. New generations gather around sacred fires, telling stories about gods they have never seen. The war is over. The throne belongs to Zeus. Olympus governs the cosmos, and yet somehow Cronus remains present. Not in power, in memory. This is where his story becomes especially fascinating, because many defeated rulers disappear from history. Cronus does not. Instead, he transforms. The living king becomes a legend. The legend becomes a symbol, and the symbol begins taking on a life of its own. You walk through an ancient Greek harbor town as evening settles over the sea. Fishing boats sway gently against wooden docks. The scent of salt water mingles with olive oil and wood smoke. Temple bells sound in the distance. People gather beneath torchlight sharing stories after a long day's work. Among those stories are tales of Cronus. Yet something surprising has happened. The stories are not all the same. Some describe him as a tyrant. Others remember him as the ruler of the Golden Age. Still others preserve both images simultaneously. Ancient listeners lived with these contradictions comfortably. They did not always seek a single answer. They understood that people, gods, and kings could be many things at once. Cronus had swallowed his children. That could not be ignored. Cronus had also ruled during an age remembered for peace and abundance. That could not be ignored either. The tension remained, and perhaps it still remains today. You enter a small sanctuary dedicated to older traditions. The stone floor feels cool beneath your feet. The scent of incense drifts through the air. Candlelight flickers across carved images weathered by time. Some worshippers leave offerings connected to harvest and fertility. Others pray for stability and prosperity. Though Zeus now reigns, memories of earlier ages continue surviving in local customs. Ancient religion was rarely simple. New gods did not always erase old ones. Beliefs layered themselves across generations. The past remained present. Cronus became part of that layered memory. One of the most important reasons is simple. People miss the Golden Age, or at least the idea of it. Human beings often imagine that a better time existed before their own. A lost era. A simpler era. A more peaceful era. Whether such ages truly existed matters less than the longing they inspire. The Greeks were no different. When life felt difficult, thoughts often drifted backward. Toward the reign of Cronus, toward the dream of harmony. You stand beside an old farmer, watching golden grain ripple beneath the wind. The afternoon sun warms the fields. The scent of earth and growing crops fills the air. The farmer speaks quietly about ancient stories. He has never seen Cronus. No mortal has. Yet the Titan King remains meaningful, not because of battles, not because of divine politics, because harvest matters, food matters, security matters. The simple hope that next year will be good matters. Over time, those hopes became attached to the memory of Cronus. The ruler of the Golden Age slowly evolved into a symbol of abundance itself. Historians continue debating exactly how this transformation occurred. Different regions emphasized different aspects of the myth. Some communities remembered the fearful father. Others focused upon prosperity. Another interpretation survives in which both images coexist. A ruler capable of greatness and terrible mistakes. A figure representing both blessing and warning. You can understand why such stories endured. Simple myths fade. Complex myths remain alive. The contradictions give them depth. They allow every generation to discover something new. Meanwhile, in poetry and oral tradition, the image of Cronus continues changing. Storytellers emphasize different themes depending on their audience. Some focus on fate, others on kingship, others on the dangers of fear. The myth becomes a mirror. Listeners see different lessons reflected within it. A parent might hear a warning about controlling children too tightly. A ruler might hear a warning about power. A dreamer might hear a warning about resisting change. Each interpretation adds another layer. Each generation reshapes the memory. You walk through a festival held during harvest season. The evening sky glows gold and crimson. Laughter fills the air. Fresh bread, wine, and fruit are carried through crowded streets. The scent of roasted grain drifts from communal fires. People celebrate abundance. And somewhere within those celebrations survives an echo of Cronus. Not always named directly, not always recognized consciously, but present. The memory of a king associated with plenty. The memory of a world where the earth seemed endlessly generous. Ancient religion often worked through symbols rather than strict doctrines. The emotional truth mattered as much as historical detail. The feeling of abundance became linked to the ruler remembered for providing it. Yet there is another side to his legacy. The darker side, the side that prevented complete admiration. Parents told stories about his fear. Poets reflected upon the swallowed children. Philosophers considered the dangers of trying to stop natural succession. The warning survived alongside the nostalgia. This balance is important because it prevented Cronus from becoming merely a hero. Instead, he became human in a strange mythological way. Not human through mortality, human through contradiction. The same figure capable of creating peace could also create suffering. The same figure capable of love could also be consumed by fear. The Greeks understood this complexity. Perhaps that is why they preserved it. You stand beneath a star-filled sky overlooking the sea. Waves roll steadily against the shore. The air feels cool and calm. Far above the constellations shine just as they did during the reign of the Titans. The world has changed. The stars remain. There is something comforting in that thought. Perhaps it explains why myths endure. They connect changing generations to something older than themselves. Cronus becomes one of those connections, a bridge between ages, a reminder that every era eventually passes, a reminder that fear can reshape even the strongest rulers, a reminder that memory often softens certainty. The centuries continue flowing forward. Poets continue telling stories. Worshippers continue leaving offerings. Children continue hearing tales beside sacred fires. And the image of Cronus continues evolving. No longer merely a defeated king, no longer merely a tyrant, something larger, something symbolic. The transformation is not yet complete. For over time, the Titan King will become connected to ideas even broader than kingship and harvest. Ideas reaching into the deepest mysteries of existence itself, time, change, the endless turning of generations. And as those associations grow, the memory of Cronus will enter a new chapter far beyond the story of a single life. The sun hangs low above the fields. You stand upon a hillside overlooking endless waves of golden grain. Warm wind moves gently through the harvest. The scent of ripe wheat fills the air. In the distance, villagers prepare for evening celebrations as smoke rises softly from cooking fires. The world has changed many times since the reign of Cronus. Kings have come and gone. Cities have risen and fallen. Generations have lived their entire lives beneath the rule of Zeus. And yet the memory of the old Titan remains, not as a ruler, not as a prisoner, as a symbol. Over the centuries, people increasingly connect Cronus with harvests, agriculture, and the great cycles of nature. The association feels natural. After all, his reign became linked with abundance, with prosperity, with the dream of a world where the earth provided generously. But there is something deeper happening as well. The symbolism begins reaching beyond crops and seasons. It begins touching the very structure of existence. You walk through a farming village preparing for harvest. The air hums with activity. Baskets are woven. Tools are sharpened. Families gather beneath the fading sunlight. Everyone understands a simple truth. Harvest is both an ending and a beginning. The grain must be cut. The old growth must fall. Only then can new growth eventually emerge. This rhythm repeats every year. Ancient people lived close to such rhythms. They watched seeds disappear beneath soil. They watched green shoots rise months later. They witnessed life transforming itself through cycles of loss and renewal. These experiences shaped their understanding of the world. And gradually the story of Cronus began reflecting those same patterns. Consider the image that started everything. The stone sickle, the weapon Gaia placed in his hands. When Cronus overthrew Uranus, the sickle represented rebellion, a tool of change, a symbol of separation. Later generations noticed something else. The same object belonged naturally to harvest. The same motion that removes grain from a field removes an old ruler from power. The symbolism felt too powerful to ignore. One generation falls, another rises. The cycle continues. Ancient myths often reveal meanings slowly. Ideas hidden within stories become clearer over time. The sickle became one such idea. You stand beside an elderly farmer, working beneath a warm afternoon sky. The field stretches around him in every direction. Each swing of his sickle sends grain falling softly to the earth. The sound is rhythmic, almost peaceful. There is no violence here, only necessity. The harvest must come, no matter how beautiful the field appears. No matter how much anyone wishes summer would last forever, nature continues moving. This is the lesson Cronus struggled to learn. The lesson the harvest teaches effortlessly. Nothing remains unchanged. Not fields, not seasons, not rulers, not ages. Ancient listeners likely understood this connection instinctively. Their lives depended upon accepting change. Resisting the harvest would bring famine. Resisting winter would bring disappointment. Resisting the future would bring suffering. The same pattern appears throughout the myth. Cronus succeeds when he accepts change. He suffers when he tries to stop it. You walk through sacred ceremonies honoring agricultural abundance. Torches glow against the evening darkness. The scent of fresh bread fills the air. Musicians play simple melodies beneath the stars. Children laugh nearby. Offerings of grain and fruit rest upon stone altars. Many such rituals never belonged exclusively to Cronus. Ancient religion was rarely so straightforward. Different gods shared overlapping responsibilities. Different regions preserved different traditions. Yet the memory remains. The old Titan king becomes associated with fertile fields and generous harvests. Not because people forgot his mistakes, because they remembered his blessings as well. This duality defines his legacy. One cannot understand Cronus through only fear, nor through only prosperity. Both belong together. The Greeks often resisted simple moral categories. Their myths reflected reality too closely for that. Heroes failed. Villains suffered. Kings made mistakes. Even gods carried contradictions. Cronus fits perfectly within that tradition. You notice how frequently cycles appear throughout his story. The cycle of fathers and children. The cycle of kingship. The cycle of harvest. The cycle of memory itself. Everywhere you look, repetition and renewal intertwine. Perhaps that is why later generations found him so fascinating. His life reflects patterns people recognize within their own experiences. Parents watching children grow. Leaders confronting succession. Communities surviving seasonal change. Everyone participates in cycles, whether they wish to or not. One evening, according to a lesser-known tradition, a priest dreams of a vast field stretching beneath a star-filled sky. At the center stands Cronus, not as a king, not as a prisoner, simply as a figure holding a sickle. The harvest around him glows with golden light. When the priest asks what the vision means, the Titan replies only with silence. Then he points toward the horizon. There beyond the field, another season approaches. The dream ends. Ancient audiences loved such imagery. Its meaning remains open, yet the symbolism feels clear. The future is always coming. No season rules forever. You sit beside a small fire as night settles across the countryside. Crickets sing in the darkness. The warmth of the flames contrasts with the cool air. Above, countless stars glitter across the heavens. Somewhere, storytellers continue speaking of Cronus. Some emphasize his downfall. Others emphasize the golden age. Others focus upon the harvest and the turning year. All of them contribute something valuable. Because myths survive not by remaining fixed. They survive by remaining meaningful. Each generation discovers new reflections within them. And Cronus offers many reflections: the fear of change, the desire for permanence, the pain of letting go, the necessity of renewal. These themes remain as relevant now as they were thousands of years ago. Perhaps that explains why his story never disappeared. The details belong to mythology. The emotions belong to everyone. The harvest eventually ends. The fields grow quiet. The grain is stored. Winter approaches. Yet beneath the earth, new seeds already wait. The cycle continues, and as people contemplate these eternal rhythms, another idea begins attaching itself to the memory of Cronus. An idea larger than harvest, larger than kingship, larger even than the rise and fall of generations. The idea of time itself, a force no ruler can command, a force no prophecy can avoid, a force that shapes every life. Soon the old Titan king will become connected to that mystery as well. And through that connection, his story will enter its deepest and most enduring form. Night has returned once more. You stand upon a quiet shoreline where dark waves roll steadily beneath the stars. The sea breathes in slow rhythms. Cool wind carries the scent of salt and distant rain. Above, constellations drift across the heavens exactly as they did during the reign of Cronus. The world changes. The stars endure. And somewhere between those two truths lies the mystery of time. By now, the story of Cronus has traveled far beyond the life of a single Titan king. The rebel who overthrew Uranus, the ruler of the Golden Age, the father who feared his children, the prisoner of Tartarus. All of those identities remain. Yet over centuries, another association begins emerging. People increasingly connect Cronus with time itself. The relationship is complicated. Historians continue to debate exactly how it developed. The earliest Greek traditions do not always present Cronus as a literal god of time. That role belongs more naturally to other concepts and figures. Yet language symbolism and philosophical reflection gradually bring the two ideas together. And once connected, the symbolism becomes difficult to ignore. Because no figure in Greek mythology struggles more dramatically against the future than Cronus. You walk through the ruins of an ancient sanctuary. Moonlight spills across weathered stone. The air smells faintly of earth and wild grass. Columns stand broken beneath the stars. Generations have passed through this place. Priests, travelers, farmers, kings. All gone now, only the stones remain. Even they will not last forever. This realization sits at the heart of ancient thought. Everything changes. Everything ages. Everything yields to time. The Greeks understood this deeply. They saw it in their cities, their families, their harvests, their own bodies. And when they looked back upon the story of Cronus, they found a powerful reflection of that reality. Consider his entire life. As a young Titan, he opposed his father. As a king, he feared replacement. As an old ruler, he confronted the next generation. His story follows the same pattern time follows. One thing ending so another may begin. One season giving way to the next. One age making room for another. You sit beside a philosopher gazing toward the sea. The night is quiet. Only waves disturb the silence. He speaks of fate, of change, of the strange human desire to stop both. People build monuments hoping to be remembered. They create kingdoms hoping they will endure. They tell themselves tomorrow can resemble today forever. Yet time continues moving. The philosopher smiles sadly. So did Cronus. Ancient listeners would have recognized the truth immediately. The Titan's greatest battle was never really against Zeus. It was against inevitability. And inevitability always wins. This does not mean resistance lacks meaning. Quite the opposite. The struggle itself reveals character. Cronus becomes memorable because he resisted, because he feared, because he fought, because he failed. Failure often teaches more than success, especially in mythology. You stand beneath a sky crowded with stars. Some shine brightly. Others appear faint and distant. Each belongs to a cycle larger than any human life. Ancient people often found comfort in such images. The stars reminded them that change was natural, not personal, not malicious, simply part of existence. Cronus spent much of his life interpreting change as a threat. The heavens suggest another possibility. Change is also continuity. The next generation arrives because the previous generation existed. The future grows from the past. Nothing truly stands alone. This idea appears throughout Greek mythology. The younger gods do not emerge from nothing. They emerge from the Titans. The Titans emerge from earlier powers. Each age contains traces of those before it. Even defeat cannot erase that connection. Zeus becomes king. Yet part of his story remains shaped by Cronus. The son carries the legacy of the father, just as Cronus carried the legacy of Uranus. The chain continues. You walk through a quiet olive grove beneath moonlight. The trees twist toward the sky. Some are young, others have stood for centuries. Their roots run deep into the earth. Their branches reach toward the stars. The image feels symbolic. Past and future joined together. Growth depending upon what came before. This is another lesson hidden within the myth. Cronus could not stop the future because the future was already part of him. Zeus existed because Cronus existed. The next generation was never separate, only waiting. Many modern interpretations focus upon this theme. Some researchers believe the myth reflects agricultural cycles. Others see political succession. Others explore psychological dimensions involving parents and children. No single explanation captures everything. That is the beauty of ancient stories. They contain more meaning than any one interpretation can exhaust. The myth survives because it continues speaking to different people in different ways. A parent may see fear of letting children grow independent. A leader may see fear of losing authority. An ordinary listener may see fear of aging. The details change. The emotions remain recognizable. You return once more to the image of Tartarus. Deep beneath the world, the old king remains. Whether imprisoned forever or eventually reconciled depends upon which tradition you follow. The uncertainty itself feels meaningful. Perhaps the Greeks left the ending unresolved because memory itself remains unresolved. No one is remembered through only one story. Cronus becomes a collection of stories, a warning, a nostalgia, a tragedy, a symbol, all at once. The sea breeze grows cooler. The night deepens. Stars continue their silent movement overhead. And you realize something important. The association between Cronus and time does not emerge because he controls time. It emerges because he cannot. He becomes a symbol precisely because he fails. He reminds listeners that no one commands the future. No one owns tomorrow. No one remains unchanged forever. Not kings, not heroes, not even gods. This realization might seem melancholy, yet the ancient world often found wisdom within such thoughts. If change is inevitable, then each moment becomes precious. If every season passes, then every season deserves appreciation. If every age ends, then every age deserves gratitude. Perhaps that is the deepest lesson hidden within the life of Cronus. Not that change should be feared, that it should be understood, accepted, lived alongside. The stars continue their journey, the waves continue theirs. And somewhere beyond memory, beyond myth, beyond history itself, the old Titan king remains part of the eternal conversation about fate, time, and what it means to let go. Only one chapter remains, one final reflection beneath the fading embers of a lost age. And there beside the last fire of the golden age, the story of Cronus will finally come to rest. The night is quieter now. You stand alone on a gentle hillside overlooking a world softened by moonlight. The wind moves through tall grass in slow, rhythmic waves. Far away, a river glows faintly as it winds toward the sea. The air is cool, calm, almost gentle. Everything feels like an ending, not a violent ending, a fading one, a soft release of something that once felt eternal. And in that fading, you begin to understand what Cronus truly became. Not only a king, not only a father, not only a prisoner, but a memory carried forward through countless generations. The last fire of the golden age burns somewhere behind you. Its glow is small now, distant, more symbolic than real. Yet its warmth still reaches across time. Ancient traditions rarely agree on what Cronus experiences in his final form. Some say he remains in Tartarus forever silent beneath the earth. Others suggest he eventually softens, becoming a wiser presence among forgotten depths. A few late interpretations even imagine him reconciled with time itself, no longer resisting its flow. The myths do not settle the question, and perhaps they were never meant to, because Cronus is not a single ending. He is a reflection of endings themselves. You walk slowly through this imagined landscape where earth, sea, and sky feel closer than they should. The stars above are steady. The world below is still. Between them lies a silence filled with memory. And within that memory, his life unfolds one final time. You see him as the young Titan beneath Uranus's shadow. You see him as the rebel holding Gaia's sickle beneath trembling skies. You see him as the first king of a flourishing world. You see him as the father consumed by fear. You see him as the ruler who tried to hold back the future. And you see him as the fallen figure beneath an age that no longer belongs to him. Every version remains true. Every version coexists. This is how myth remembers, not in lines, but in layers. The Golden Age itself now feels like a distant dream, a time when the earth seemed generous without limit, when harvest came easily, when life felt less burdened by struggle. Whether such an age truly existed or not has become less important than what it represents. A longing, a memory, a human desire for harmony with the world. And Cronus in that sense becomes something larger than history. He becomes the shape of that longing. You sit beside the last remnants of a sacred fire. The embers glow faintly against the dark. Each spark rises briefly into the air before vanishing. Nothing remains unchanged for long. Not flame, not memory, not even myth. A gentle wind passes through the hillside. It carries the scent of distant olive groves and cold stone. Somewhere far away, waves continue their endless movement against the shore. The world is alive, but it is no longer the world of titans. That world has already passed into story. And story is where Cronus now lives. You think of the prophecy again. The warning spoken at the moment of his greatest triumph. The son will overthrow the father. A simple line. A pattern repeated across time. Yet in its simplicity lies something profound. The future always arrives, no matter how tightly it is held back, no matter how deeply it is feared, no matter how forcefully it is resisted. It comes anyway, not as punishment, but as continuation, as transformation, as the next breath of existence. Cronus tried to stop this truth, and in doing so, he became part of its expression. That is the quiet paradox at the center of his story. You cannot stand outside change. You are always within it. Even resistance becomes part of the movement. The fire behind you dims further. The last glow flickers across stone and grass, and in that fading light, something soft settles into place. Not understanding in a sharp or sudden way, but understanding that arrives gently like sleep. Cronus remains in memory because he reflects something every generation eventually meets. The moment when control gives way, when certainty dissolves, when what we tried to hold forever begins to move beyond our reach. In that moment, fear and wisdom stand very close to each other. Cronus lived on the edge of that boundary for all his days. Sometimes he stepped toward fear, sometimes toward wisdom. That is why his story lingers. Not because he was only a tyrant, not because he was only a king, but because he was something familiar, a being trying to stop time, and discovering too late that time was never something to stop, only something to live within. The night deepens. Stars spread across the sky in silent abundance. The hillside grows still, and the world feels vast in a way that is no longer frightening, only true. You realize there will be no final resolution in the way mortal stories expect, no single judgment that fully contains him, no ending that closes everything neatly. Only remembrance, only interpretation, only the slow passing of one age into another. The fire is almost gone now. Only a few embers remain glowing faintly in the dark. They flicker once, twice, and then soften into ash. And in that final quiet, the story of Cronus does not end with thunder or victory or punishment. It ends the way all great ages end, not with disappearance, but with memory becoming part of the world itself. And as you lie beneath that ancient sky, listening to the distant rhythm of the sea, the last thought settles gently into place. Every age believes it is permanent. Every ruler believes their moment will last. But time patient and unbroken carries everything forward. Even gods, even kings, even the ones who tried to hold it still. And somewhere in that endless unfolding, Cronus still exists. Not as ruler, not as prisoner, but as the echo of the moment when the world first learned it could change.